All right, we give praise, esteem, and honor to the living Elohim. We bless his Kadesh Shabbat in the name of Yahushua this day. Pick this up in John chapter 5, verse 9. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and there they will testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from him, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one from another, and not the honor that comes from Elohim only? Do not think that I will accuse you. There's one that accused you, even Moses, in whom you trust. Had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote in me. But if you believe not his writings, how should you believe my words? Yo, let's pick it up, man. Proverbs 17. We got a couple transitions to make out of this here, man. Kind of came to my mind earlier in the week in regards to David. I was looking at the story of Jonathan and David. I want to kind of deal with that. Got a verse in Proverbs to maintain our continuity, but also we're going to transition off of what we're looking at today, and we're going to take a little bit of look at Songs of Solomon. Of course, y'all know that we have already delved into Songs of Solomon in regards that it's not referring to oral content of any sort, no coniguous, no fellatio, none of the sort. But that's not what we're going in there for, because we're talking about a friend. In Proverbs 17:17, a friend love at all times, and a brother is born from adversity. And if we're talking about things in the aspect of love and ahab, and of course, Songs of Solomon would need to be visited in that regard. So, after looking at this Proverbs 17:17, a friend love at all times, and a brother is born for adversity, and knowing Proverbs 27:6, that faithful are the wounds of love, and shalom, man. And then Proverbs 18:24, that there's a love that sticks closer than a brother. I honestly and sincerely can attest that the aspect of loving Elohim and loving your brother, loving your wife, loving your offspring is spoken about, but it's not. Notice that in that John 5:39, Yahushua said, "For I know you, the love of Elohim is not in you." And we kind of talked about that Wednesday, that the love of Elohim is all encompassing into the two instructions. Love Yahuwah with all your heart, mind, strength, and soul, and to love your brother as yourself. In doing those things, you can never run afoul, because the instructions that Elohim gave was in regards to you. If you loved him, then you're going to love your brother. Your brother's made in his image. That's why he said, if a man don't love his wife, he hate his own self, because the woman comes from you, and you made it an image of Elohim, so therefore you hate the reflection of self. So when you look at the aspect of all the things that we have going on amongst our people, and I was listening to something earlier, and I done told you this before, that there is no family without a father. The father is the one who teaches the whole household how to love. A lot of young girls don't have love in their hearts because they don't know how to love a man, or love themselves, or love their friends, or love their sons or their daughters, because they didn't have a father in the house to teach them what that was. See, we minimalize that when you sit back and you pause and you look at the word. That's why dudes talking about, where's the mother God at? Because you an idiot. See, we the only people who feel that way, who will just disregard the man and say, where is the woman at? And you would have to actually pause and ask yourself, why are we like that? Because no other race of people does that. I was listening to an exchange. I think I've told y'all this before, but it's a true story. I know Monte know about Patrice O'Neal, and the brother quoted Patrice O'Neal, which is the truth. Patrice O'Neal was talking. Patrice O'Neal is a comedian, extremely funny individual, but his viewpoint and perspective on male and female interaction is what dudes on YouTube, what they would call the manosphere, will be called it red pill before it's red pill, but it's really just actual truth and understanding of human nature. And he said the queen is just the king's female dog, if you will. See, the brother was talking to a woman, and he said, why? Because, see, I told a friend of mine this a while back, and it hurt her feelings to an extent. Because you got niggas walking around here calling themselves kings. And I told you this other day, you can't be a king and you don't have complete control and dominion. You don't have something that you're ruling over. You're not a king. But then this woman said, we're black women are queens. He said, why? She said, because we're mothers. He said, notice that you said mothers and not wives. See, this is the hardest, and I told you this before. We know this from the text. The kingly tribe was from Judah. And if it was in the northern kingdom, they came from Ephraim. So that's a rare thing. See, this is the only time in recorded human history where people feel, specifically our people, we come from kings and queens. No, you don't. All of you do not come from the bloodline of a king and a queen. Stop lying to yourself. And a queen is nothing without a king. You can't be a king if you don't have a queen, if you don't have a husband. That's impossible. You can't be a queen if you don't have a husband or your father is not the king. That is impossible. Now, of course, it says Mashiach has made us kings and priests, but you're not a king until you reign with him. You would actually have to make it there and reign with him because you would have rule and dominion. The only thing that you have rule over and dominion in that aspect is over yourself. See, the thing that we sit back in is because we're such a broken and disillusioned people that we look for a multitude of things to mask the fact that you don't know how to love yourself or love anyone else. When we look at the aspect of love, it comes from the knowledge of Elohim, and the Father taught that to the Son, who came and taught that unto Adam, and then on down the line. See, that hurts a lot of people's feelings. A woman does not know how to love because she is selfish by nature. Her natural instinct is to seek to preserve her own survival. You don't have to like it, but it's reality. If you've been around enough women, you know this. The women that you see have less of that are women who had strong fathers in the house. Definitely, apartment is definitely not a kingdom. But the problem is we so intent on wanting to assert that you're a king, and we've dealt with this in the past. It's a way a king conducts himself. You can't say you a king and you don't even know how to have a ruler's mentality. You don't have a regal, a noble air about yourself. Kings don't do things that regular people do because kings are rare. It's not even many kings left in the earth now. Everybody wasn't a monarch. You have to understand that. Of course, Yahushua is a monarch, a Malik, if you will. And you can only be a Malik if you are in him and he is in you, and you will reign with him at the time appointed. You're not going to reign right now. And see, that's not no shot. Because why not being the son of Elohim waiting on his inheritance? Why is that not sufficient? He paused. Matter of fact, let's come over here to Galatians 4. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, but I'll read it just now. Read it now, just for this aspect. And the reason why I'm mentioning all this here is because that type of mentality makes it difficult for individuals to love. Because you're going to be entitled, you're going to be selfish, you're not going to have the ability to humble yourself, you're not going to be able to serve others because you think that you're something that you're not, and therefore you deserve things that you do not earn. So therefore it's going to be, I just sit back and ask some of y'all, I just sit back and look at it and ask yourself, do you really, if before you got in the word, to actually see what the love of Elohim is, were you actually capable and able to love another person in the purest form that it is intended to be done if there was not a father in your house to teach you how to do it? Or if your father was insufficient in the task. People be wondering why do people struggle with love? Because your daddy didn't teach you. That's why. See, bump what the world is talking about. The father is the most important person in the household. There's no one more important than he is. That's why they sought to remove him. See, people so simple. If the woman was so important, then they would have sought to separate her from you, not the man from the woman. They haven't made men sit back and look at, I hate women, because men want to get married. Man, if you see all the Hebrew dudes up and down that timeline talking about they want a wife and this, that, there, and the third, these dudes want to be married. They want families. They want wives. They want sons. They want daughters. These women are not sufficient for the task. because it will require things of them. That's why I asked you young ladies that last week. It's going to require things of you. And once you begin to see that there's a requirement in order to get someone's love, because remember what it says is that Yahuwah set his love upon you. You know what I'm saying? We talked about this a couple years ago. Love is a conditional thing. If anyone just loves someone unconditionally, no love is not worth having. Period. It's not worth having. It's just not worth having. If there's no conditions on your love, what is it really worth? Because the greatest person to ever walk the earth had conditions for his love. He just didn't hand that out and say, here, you can have it. You ain't got to do nothing. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm still going to love you. He never said that. That's once it's gone, the game. But once the king is gone, the game is over. You lose. Notice that the queen's whole objective was to protect the king. She stands right next to him. But that's another conversation for another day. Galatians 4:1. Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differ nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all. Listen, right? Now this is pertaining to Mashiach. Now, if you are born again and you are a son of Elohim, then you are an heir through Mashiach. Therefore, you don't differ from a servant, because he said that he didn't come to be served, but he came to serve. So therefore, even though you're master of everything, you will have dominion over the whole earth, but you got to know how to have the patience to bide your time. Continuing, but it's under tutors and governors until the time appointed of Abba. Even so, when we were sons, we were in bondage under the elements of the world. But when the fullness of time was come, Elohim sent forth his son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. And because you are sons, Elohim has sent forth his ruach of his son into your hearts, crying, Abba. Wherefore you are no more a servant, but a son, and if a son, and an heir of Elohim through Mashiach. See, if you're seeking to inherit something, you can let that be known that you're going to inherit it, but you can't rule as if you have it, because you don't. Because you don't. See, the difference is where we get the game twisted. Mashiach was telling people he was king because he knew his father would fulfill his word. But when he was walking around, he was not the king. He was not the king. He was Joseph and Mary's son of a carpenter. That's what the people saw when they saw him. He was not a king. That's why Pilate said it when they came to him and said, he said he the king of the Yahudim. He said, I wrote what I wrote. He already knew what it was, whether consciously or subconsciously. But nevertheless, see, one thing about it, David was king, but you notice all the stuff. When 1 Samuel 16, Yahuwah already anointed this man to be king. But before he inherited that throne, that man went through a lot of things before he inherited that throne. And that man did not open his mouth and tell people that he was a king until he was actually anointed the king and sat on the throne. That's what I mean by actually anointed. He was anointed by Samuel, and he didn't take over. He didn't take over till after Saul was dead. He just didn't pop up and like, I'm king now. I've been anointed to be king. I'm king, I'm king. He didn't do that. Wasn't no need to do that. If you got to walk around people, I'll put it to you this way. If your self-esteem and your self-worth and self-view of yourself is so low that it's boosted up by somebody calling you a king, you need counseling. Not even being funny. I'm dead serious. If you need somebody to tell you a king, tell you that you are a king to feel better about yourself, you need counseling. There's something wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? That's not being funny. It's dead serious. There's something wrong with you. Mentally and emotionally, something is wrong, because that should not do anything for your self-esteem and value. That somebody you don't know, we need to boost up our brothers and call each other king. Nigga, miss me with that, nigga. I don't need you to call me anything. I'm not a king. What do I own and rule and have dominion over? I don't have dominion over anything. Dudes can say, I got land, I got dominion over that. No, you don't. Because if the government say they want to take it, you can't stop them. You can't stop them. Somebody who's a king and have dominion, nobody can take nothing that's theirs. That can't happen. That doesn't happen. That's an act of war. That's an act of war. And these boys ain't finna go to war with nobody. What these niggas living in a real life delusion. Come on over here to Samuel, man. It sounds hard, but it is what it is. But that's our problem with our people. We don't like sobering truths. We like intoxicating lies. You know what I'm saying? That's what we like. See, the truth sober you up. Some of y'all used to be drunk and have hangovers and this, that, and the third. That doggone alcohol wear off. You have to sit back and hit the truth that you had too much to drink that night. Now you're feeling horrible. Your head spinning. You're a little dizzy. Might want to throw up. Got a little headache. All discombobulated. I'm just making random assessment because I ain't never had no hangover in my life. Because I don't do no drinking. That wasn't my thing. I leave that to those who like to drink alcohol. Never was one for something that would cause me to lose control of my faculties. Come over here. I meant to read this the other day. 1 Samuel 14. Let me see what verse. We'd start at the top, man. I work my way around. 1 Samuel 14:1. Now it came to pass upon a day that Jonathan, the son of Saul, said to the young man that bear his armor, come, let us go over to the Philistines' garrison that is on the other side. But he told not his father. Saul tarried in the uttermost part of Gibeah under the pomegranate tree, which is in Migron. The people that were with him were about 600 men. Ahiah, the son of Atub, Ichabod's brother, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, Yahuwah's priest in Shiloh, wore an ephod, and the people knew not that Jonathan was gone. Between the passages by which Jonathan sought to go over into the Philistines' garrison, there was a sharp rock on one side and a sharp rock on the other side. The name of one was Bozez, the name of the other was Sinai. Let's go ahead and look at these sharp rocks real quick. Now we have both sets. That's surpassing white or glistening. All right, you got Batu, Sod. Yeah, that's about it on that one. He just got doubles. I don't know why they do that. Batu and Sod. I'll give you a moment to think on it. You can share if you desire. Less sugar than dairy milk. That is one of the biggest reasons why I stopped drinking milk. All that doggone sugar. I'm trying to get Eileen, we done lost about 15 pounds. Need to lose about 15. All right, you got Batu inside, right? So the sun has secured you. Not even that. Because we can look at something that's secured, that means it's safe, security, safety. So the sun has secured your safety, if you will. Or the sun, or the way of the sun is safety or security, if you will. And it's a surpassing white or something that is glistening or shining. And come over here to Matthew 17. Now, of course, you also might recall that in the book of Ecclesiastes, it tells you about how wisdom calls a man face this time. So I want you to come over here to Matthew 17:1. Y'all know what the story is, but we're just looking at the part and the aspect of him shining and where he was at that particular time. After 6 days, Yahushua take Peter, James, and John, his brother, and bring them up into a high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them, and his face did shine in the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. Now, of course, y'all recall in the law that Moses' face shined. But again, we're looking at something. What causes him to shine? Well, in him was light, and the light was the life of men, and Elohim is light and no part darkness. So when we look at this here, right, of seeing that the way of the sun has secured life for you, secured safety. You've been secured to something. See, that's the thing that goes back to the aspect about a friend loving at all times. See, love brings forth a secure feeling, a place of comfort, a sanctuary, a place of peace, and things of that regard. That's why it's of the utmost importance that the Father manifests that because then that woman would know how to love her husband. That woman would know how to love her children. Most women don't learn how to actually love anyone until they have children. And some women, it still don't click. That's what people like to call the maternal instinct. But if a woman had never had anyone to love her, she's going to be a selfish creature because that was never restrained. See, that selfishness and lack of gratitude is rampant in a woman's nature. These are not things to be upset with a woman about. These are just facts. You understand? It's just what it is. It runs rampant in them. It runs rampant in little boys who are raised by women and their father's not there because they get that vibe from women. It runs and it rubs off. And then they begin to conduct themselves like that when they begin to interact with women and feel like that they should have a lack of gratitude for whatever a woman does. That's if you have a solid woman. A lot of dudes don't have no solid woman, so they don't have that problem. You know what I'm saying? That's never a concern from them. You know what I'm saying? The reason why it's important for the father, because the father will discipline that out of the child. And again, discipline is not about just beating or yelling at this child. It's about showing them how the conduct is not acceptable and pointing out why the conduct is not acceptable and the detriment of the conduct. And if they have to do certain things to show forth that that conduct will not be accepted. See, a lot of times the mother is not going to do that. That's why a lot of dudes don't want to be that disciplinarian because the father stereotypically is seen as the bad guy because he has to be the administrator of discipline. He has to be the one who administers rebuke, but it is necessary. It is vital because that is something that the woman does not have. She doesn't have the structure, order, and discipline to give a household. That's what we are for. She doesn't have it. And they will tell you this. And a lot of us don't seem to want to understand that. She is not a man. They don't move off of structure and order like we do. They just don't. You know what I'm saying? The ones that do, I guarantee you, they had a father who instilled it in them. As a jit coming up, looking at young girls, I knew full well I did not want to deal with a woman who did not have her father. I could see at a young age how detrimental that is for a young woman to not have a father. There's just and it ain't even about no horn and no stuff like that. Her ability to interact with the masculine presence would be severely hindered. Why would I subject myself to that? I don't want to deal with that because you're going to be frustrated. Because if you got a wife, you're going to have to raise this woman anyway. The book already tell you that. But I don't want to raise nobody who ain't nobody talking to. Why would I want to do that? Especially when I was young, I smoked reefer, a lot of reefer. You're gonna blow my high. I don't care to deal with. If you're gonna blow my high, what I got you for? So that was my mindset in my early 20s and late teens. What do I have you for if you're going to blow my high? That means that you're not going to be agreeable. You're going to bother me. Your vagina is not worth that. So when you turn around and you look at Yahuwah, why would he want to deal with people who are going to vex him? He's not going to want to do it. We don't want to see it in that aspect. That's why people have been wilding. Like we read in Hosea, you don't went many days without a king and without a teaching priest. Pause. Come over here to what it is. 2 Chronicles chapter 15. I ain't going to grab it from Hosea. We grab it out of Chronicles. Praise the Lamb. 2 Chronicles and chapter 15 of verse. Second Chronicles 15 and 1. And the Ruach of Elohim came upon Azariah, the son of Oded. And he went out to meet Asa and said to them, here you meet Asa, and all Yehuda and Benjamin, who is with you while you be with him. If you seek him, he will be found of you. If you forsake him, he will forsake you. Now for a long season, Yasharal have been without the true Elohim, and without a teaching priest, and without law. So when you know what you've been without love. That's what you done had your problem with. See, hold on, let me get them words for you real quick. I know we done dealt with them before, but my mind back. When we have been without, right, you have low, and it's just no. Lamad and Olive. You've been without the strength of the shepherd, which means you've been without a faith. And again, meaning you've been without love. So how are you going to be able to discipline yourself and love each other and love your wife and love your offspring? And you've been without your Elohim. It's going to be impossible for you to do it. Now, when you look at priest, okay, that's what it was. It's just simply your rod for teaching. Oh, there it is. Nothing to it. But that's Yod, Rosh, and Hay. So you haven't been able to behold the worship of Elohim because you ain't had nobody to teach it to you. You haven't had see. Come over here to Malachi for a teaching priest, man. School. Remember, the text tells you through the Apostle John in his epistle that Elohim is love. Well, how are you going to be able to love anyone and you don't have a teaching priest or the instructions or the Torah to show you how to do that? See, and that's another thing that you got people going on with this who deal with the word. A lot of dudes feel like because they teach the word that they can handle niggas any kind of way. Now, see, when I say handle niggas any kind of way, I ain't talking about checking them. But some niggas feel like you handle them any kind of way because you check them or you don't go along everything that they want to do. I'm talking about because you'll see this here, right? Dudes will jump up. Now, this is natural, so I can't knock a man for that. This is natural. It is natural for a man to defend the person who teaches them the word, not because the person teaches them the word, but because they will see this person as family or a friend. So that's their number one inclination. Yeah, they were like my elder, my shepherd, my teacher, this, that, and the third. But that's really the thought process for most people. You attacking my people. It is natural for them to defend them. See, the problem is what we talked about a long time ago, is that you look at somebody above what is written. And you begin to put someone on a pedestal and place them somewhere where they do not belong. That is where the problem comes in at. And niggas go to worshiping men. And that's why dudes will get offended if you be like, hey, it's all love what you're doing, but I don't see you how your people may see you or how you feel like people should see you. Now, I'm going to give respect where respect is due because that's what you're supposed to do. See, I was talking about this the other day, like, because my granddaddy was the integral masculine influence and my upbringing, I had a natural automatic respect for any older black male that I came across, police, COs, whatever the case may be, no matter where I went because of him. So I'm not going to disrespect this man regardless of what he got going on because he did not teach me that. So therefore, you're going to get due respect, period. If a dude teach the word and I'm standing in front, I'm not going to disrespect this man, even if I don't agree with what he's talking about. Even if I don't like him, even if I don't respect him, I'm not going to disrespect him until he gets sideways out his mouth. And then he might have to get checked. And I still may check him in a respectful fashion because he's older than I am. It's simple as that. He's older than mine. That's just not what you do. I don't care if this nigga is the buster of all busters. That's just not what you do. See, and that's the part of dealing with. If you're a king, you're going to know that. You're going to carry yourself in a regal fashion. You're not going to just disrespect niggas just for the sake of doing it because you feel like, nigga, I'm a man too. That's a sign of insecurity. You should already know you a man. And as a man, you'll give the proper respect where respect is due because that's who you are and that's what you do. Ain't got nothing to do with him. See, a lot of the things that we do, it be contingent off other people and not the code of conduct that you live by. I don't care what other people do. It ain't got nothing to do with the code of conduct that I live by. There's rules of etiquette that we follow. I don't care what these other niggas do. That ain't got nothing to do with me. All of us have to conduct ourselves in that fashion. I don't care what another person said, how another person reacted, that, and the third. What that got to do with you? You only worried about it because you worried about how you going to look in the eyesight of another person. Why do you care? Why do you care what they have to think or say? That's insecurity. Insecurity comes from lack of confidence. The lack of confidence comes from your father not instilling that in you as a child for you to believe in who you are as a man and to live your life according to the ethics and ethos that were handed down to you. Nevertheless, Malachi chapter 2. Pick it up at 2 and 5 if you would. My covenant was with him of life and shalom I gave to him for the fear wherewith he feared me. and was afraid before my name. The Torah of truth was in his mouth. Iniquity was not found in his lips. He walked with me in shalom and equity, and he turned many away from iniquity. The priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth, for he is the messenger of Yahuwah of hosts. You know what I'm saying? He is the messenger of Yahuwah of hosts, and his lips keep knowledge. What is the knowledge that he's keeping? The knowledge of Elohim. The knowledge of Elohim is the instruction of love. I don't care how anybody want to claim it. You might want to try to, oh, that's weak and that, and the third. That's your insecurities. You feel like if you lead with love, you're going to seem weak. That's a personal problem. The insecurities are rampant in young men, and understandably so, because all of us had it as some shape, form, or fashion in your life. But the older you get, that's not supposed to go away. Because you're supposed to be more secure in who you are as a man. So then you're not concerned with things that are irrelevant. I say, man, it's not no big deal to look my brother in the face and say, I love my nigga. What you mean? It's not a big deal to tell my wife that I love her and to show her that. I told you that before. That's so the kids see it. Where do you think your kids gonna learn love from? They're learning it from you. Every one of you young brothers on here that got offspring know full well how your children look at you and see you when you walk through the door. You already know. They light up. They run to you. They're excited. Some of them are sad when you depart. So that every aspect of love that they are ever going to know, they're going to get it from you. They're going to get it from you. Your son is going to know how to love his wife by watching you love yours. On top of what you teach him, he gonna learn. That's why a lot of our people don't have. You ain't watch your mama get loved by nobody. Your mama was disagreeable. Your mama had an attitude. She didn't know how to interact with no man. No man wanted to deal with her. So now you walk around with a void. What is the point? You were disagreeable to your husband. So therefore you without a teaching priest and without law for a long season. So you don't know how to love. So how are you going to do it? See, again, the two greatest commandments hang on loving Elohim and loving your brother. So how could the word not be a word that is actually the knowledge of actually loving? That is actually what it is. All this other stuff we be talking about, man, that junk ain't really hitting on nothing. Because at the end of the day, people who's devoid of knowing how to love is still devoid of it. Because we can talk about a million and one thing, but niggas still don't know how to love their brother and love their wife. What good is it? Much less love Elohim, because we know you can't love Elohim if you don't love your wife. Because he loved his wife. So how you gonna love Elohim? You don't love. We know you can't love Elohim. You don't love your brother because your brother loved you. But again, this love is predicated on action, not just conversation. But a man, see, we look at love as a feeling. You want to feel something, but what has your feelings gotten you? They haven't gotten you anything. See, this is the aspect also where things got flipped. The man is not supposed to be emotionally connected to the woman. The woman is supposed to be emotionally connected to the man. Now, when you flip that word, guys, we take out emotion, you put in spirit. Elohim is not spiritually connected to Yasharal. Yasharal is supposed to be spiritually connected to him. They're supposed to have a leaning and desire for him. I seen some women tell me, that ain't how it's supposed to be. The fall, me and the man and the woman were supposed to be equal. That book don't say that. The lying whore. And when I say whore, I'm talking about a rebellious, contentious, disagreeable woman. Not a woman who opened her legs to everybody who passed by. That word don't say nowhere in there near time that the man and the woman was equal in rule and dominion. He did not give Eve rule and dominion. You lying on that man. He gave rule and dominion to Adam. Nowhere in the text is it even insinuated that the woman and the man were equal and that they had equal rule and dominion. That is the machination of feminists and haters of men. Because you felt like what she did was, it fell from her being equal. There are no two equal things on the earth. How can the creature that comes out of another creature be equal to the creature who it came out of? That's not common sense. That's just like, how are you equal? Now, again, the text do say, don't think it robbery to make yourself equal to Elohim, but you would have to have enough sense like Yahushua had. He said, you know, my father is greater than I. Or what it said about Joseph. In throne, but he said, but throne and in power, I'm greater than you. You can look at you equal because she descended from you, but in rule, authority, and power, you greater than her. I was listening to this video, this woman sit back talking about women are born leaders and that their brains are bigger than men and they smarter than men. And I thought just hilarious because I've told you this before, never in recorded human history has there been a civilization built from the ground up by a woman. Ever. It's never happened. That's just facts. That's not personal opinion. That's not bias. It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. I'm mentioning all this stuff because it is detrimental to the mindset of people. Because how are you going to love Elohim when you have a detest in your heart for him who he set up to rule and have power in the earth, which is the man? Which means you're going to have a problem with Yahusha, which means you're going to have a problem with the Father, because when an individual begins to assert himself as a man through the love of Elohim, you're going to find disdain with it. You're going to find that that love is oppressive and controlling and belittling because it does not cater to your selfish machinations, ambitions, desires, and the idiosyncrasies of idiocy that exist in your mind. You know what I'm saying? And now people want to hear that. That's what I told you before. We're not changing. This what we got going on ain't for everybody. That's fine. Not a big deal. That's fine. Back to 1 Samuel 14. That's the thing you have to stop being worried about, is being for everybody. Anybody who for everybody ain't worth being around. Who ain't for everybody? Let's look at the other rock, Sine. That's thorny, right? You got Samak, you got Noon, and you got Hay. So you see that Yahusha grabbed hold of life for you. But in order for him to grab hold to life, he had to be pricked by thorns. Let's take a look at something, right? Talked about this a while back, so we'll keep it brief. 2 Corinthians chapter 13. See, like I say, a lot of people hear what I have to say. They think, oh, he must hate women and all that stuff that people come up with to shame you. Man, we just own what we own, man. If that don't hurt your feelings, then I don't know what it is. It's chapter 12, my apologies, not 13. You can pick it up in 12 and 4, if you will. It's not anybody bad. It's just about dealing with reality. That's what our problem. How can we say we're dealing with the word of truth, but then we don't want to deal with the reality, situation, and circumstances, and how things flow and how things go? All of us know the detrimental situations and circumstances of the households that we descend from, and how many of you have struggled with love, loving yourself, loving others, before we even get to loving Elohim, because you didn't have a father to manifest that to you. We all know this. We all know this. And I tell you something, man, I can still, every time I think about it, I can still see Richard's face opening that door and that smile on his face and him saying, dude, when I came over there, every time, still can remember it. The joy and the love that this man showed me every time I came through there. I can still see his face to this day. There was never an instance where this man ain't showed me no love. Never. Can't recall it ever. Now he might have been a piss poor father according to my mama, my auntie, and my uncle. But I don't have that experience. You know what I'm saying? So I can't speak to that. They can speak to that. And according to their witness, he was a terrible man. You know what I'm talking about? And I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it in the least bit. But he ain't never treat me like that. Ever. At any time in my existence. Not once. I don't have nothing negative to say about this man other than he liked to drink. A lot. Nothing. I have nothing negative to say about it. This man's never done anything negative to me. All he did was instruct me in numerous areas that I still carry to this day. And I only had 10 years with the man. Second Corinthians chapter 12, verse 4. How that he was caught up in the paradise and heard unspeakable words, which is not lawful for a man to utter. Of such a one will I esteem, yet of myself I will not esteem, but in my infirmities. For though I would desire to esteem, I should not be a fool. I will say the truth, but now I forbear, lest any man should think above me, above that which he see me to be, or that he hear of me. Unless I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Hashatan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. See, there go that thorn. And we talked about this in the past. Judas was that thorn. Saul was the thorn for David. Because without that thorn in your side, you can lift yourself up a little tad bit too high. You go to feeling yourself. That's why you see a lot of bruisers who like that. They go to feeling themselves. They go to thinking they're a lot more than what they are. At the end of the day, you're just a servant. You remember what the Lord said. Come on around here to it. I was going to paraphrase it. I just feel like reading it because that's just how I feel. Praise Elohim in the name of Yahushua and let his word just roll on down. Let all those who love it rejoice in their heart. Luke 17:6, if you would. It's very, very important, man. Again, at the end of the day, Elohim is love. So you know his word has to be love. When you sit back and you look at it and look at the word in its purest form, that's all it is. It ain't nothing but love. Jeremiah 31 after this Luke 17, because that was in my mind earlier, and then I rolled right past it. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I said, we'll take a trip of Songs of Solomon with it. I think we pretty much already exhausted the brother born for adversity part, at least with Jonathan and David. There was one more thing with it that I was looking at the other day. But, you know, of course, we know Yahushua was born for that specific purpose, to being with us through any vexing or trouble that we have. That's why I tell us to come unto him, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. You know what I'm saying? He was born for that point, to give you rest from your toil and trouble. A lot of us like toil and trouble and chaos. I know some of you probably have seen the clip where the lady was talking about she had a man who was good to her, he was peaceful, and she didn't like being with him, but she had a man who was toxic, according to her words, because like Monte said earlier, that's just terminology that I don't like to use. It's played out, you know what I'm saying? And it's only played out because women like to use it, and niggas just jumped onto it and went to rolling with it as well. Because a lot of stuff is not toxic per se. A lot of stuff is just chaotic. What's the word I want to look for, man? Really just chaotic, dysfunctional people. The people want to call toxic. See, some stuff that people call toxic is not even toxic. It's just people who have bad habits. But some people are just chaotic and dysfunctional. You know what I'm saying? And this woman say she like to do who she can argue with, and then they can make up and do all that. That's dysfunctional. You know what I'm saying? Most of us are taught in this society that love is hard, and you're going to argue and fight and this, that, and the third. And that's just not, love ain't supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be peaceful. You know what I'm saying? But of course, we're dealing with people. So the text has already told us, matter of fact, right up here in verse 1 of the very chapter we're in right now, that offenses will come. So the issue is not if an offense will come. The issue is, do you know how to handle offenses when they come? And that's what we lack. You lack conflict resolution. Why do you lack conflict resolution? Because your daddy wasn't there to teach it to you. So you had to learn that from your mother. And most women are not good at resolving conflict. And again, we're not talking in absolutes, because we have to let that be known. It's not 100% of anything. Because as I said, women are selfish and narcissistic by nature, unless their daddy was there to get that out of them. Then it departs. But if they decide that they don't, see, you have some women, if they daddy really authoritative, strict, they will flee because they mad because they can't do what they want to do and make a multitude of mistakes and errors in their life. Same thing with young men. Young men do that as well, and they have to come back around. And see, a lot of them don't want to come back around their daddy because if they're going to get assistance from their daddy, it comes with conditions. And people feel, I remember talking to my homeboy about this years ago. He feel like, oh, if your parents give you a car, you misbehave, they can't take the car back because they gave it to you. How, nigga? How? See, we feel like your people just supposed to do stuff for you when you are rebellious and you don't like to follow order and structure, and they should just do it because they blood related. That's not how life works. That's not how life works. That is a feminine mindset. You just want somebody to give you something when you have a track record of being an idiot. Why is somebody going to give you something and you have a track record of being an idiot? And they're not going to put conditions on their assistance. Because at the end of the day, they don't owe you. Your parents don't owe you. Yahuwah don't owe you. 17:6. Make it 5. And the apostle said unto the Lord, increase our faith. The Lord said, if you have faith as a grain of a mustard seed, you might say unto the sycamore tree, be you plucked up by the root, and be you planted in the sea, and it should obey you. But which of you having a servant plowing or feeding cattle will say unto him by and by when he is come from the field and go sit down to meat, and will not rather say to him, make ready wherewith I may sup, and gird yourself and serve me till I have eaten and drunken, and afterwards you shall eat and drink. Do he thank that servant because he did the things that were commanded him? I trow not. So likewise you, when you shall have done all those things which you are commanded, you say, we are unprofitable servants. We have done that which is our duty to do. See, it's a lot of rules. They don't forgot that. Maybe they never read it. Maybe it didn't sink into their brain. You're an unprofitable servant. You're just doing what it is that you're supposed to do. Why do you want accolades and all manner of fear and respect from any and everybody you come across when you don't get anything, you don't gain anything from your service? You're doing what your master told you to do. And see, that aspect of the game has been forgotten. See, let me put it to you this way, because we haven't had this conversation in private before, right? You over a congregation, you have authority. And of course, there's supposed to be a delineation between you and everybody else. Not that you're better than them, because they're supposed to look at you like, that's my brother. At the same time, respecting the fact that he has authority, not looking at you as if you're somebody that they can just talk to and do any kind of way. Because I know people do that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, we down, but you also have to look at the fact that you can't misconstrue. If I have to put my foot down, I have to put my foot down. So are you going to be offended if I have to put my foot down? That's what you say, y'all brothers, ain't nobody talk. That's whole nigga talk. That's whole nigga talk. That's a nigga who don't respect a man having authority. That's why so many of them ain't no man over me. Nigga, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? There's something wrong with you if you have a problem with another man having authority over you and you in the word. Because if you look in the word, that has always existed. That's not a new thing. That's not something that a camp nigga made up. It's always been like that. Did you have people who had problems over that? Come on, man, the people knew Moses was over all of them. They knew Aaron was over all of them. And nobody say, he ain't my high priest. I'm my own high priest. That's how we act right now. That's a lack of love and respect for masculine authority. That's a lack of respect for masculine presence. That we quick to say that because you feel like that make you weak. That doesn't make you weak. It's not a big deal to give deference and honor to somebody else. That's a lack of love. That's all that is, period. Period. Because you feel like I can't look at somebody as being above me. We got to be the same. Man, everybody's not the same. Look at, man, and we done had this conversation before. Man, I've been to several people congregations, man. Several. I'm not coming in there on them people like, oh, let me drop something on y'all, this, that. So what? That's that man's spot. I'm going to give him the due respect. He got authority over here. So whatever this man say, that's what it is. I ain't coming over here like, oh, I got to preach, bro, because I preach the word too. Nigga, that's gay. That means there's something wrong with me. That I'm going to step in another man's dominion and reign and rule and this, that, and the third and say, you got to make me an equal with you. This man don't know me. Why would you do that? Why would I look at him? The nigga ain't over me. I walked in his door, he is. I ain't finna preach nothing. I ain't finna say nothing if he don't ask me to. So what? I done put up on several dudes, I'm not gonna do it. For what? That's an insecurity when you have to. Because you have to, I don't have to do that. I was a man before I got here. I'm gonna be a man when I leave. And I don't need to convince anyone here of it. And again, we talked about that when we were dealing with an olive male in regards to Yahusha. An olive male, a strong, the ox, the leader, he doesn't have to do that. For what? Did you see the Lord walk around doing that? I don't know who I am. For what? He told people, don't tell nobody who I am. He didn't walk around broadcasting that to everybody. For what? For what? There wasn't no need. That man sat in that synagogue with them scribes and Pharisees. Know he the living Elohim. Know he created all of them. Know they reading the word that's talking about him, and sat there and listened to him teach it. And they ain't say a word till it was his turn. Didn't say nothing. Don't have to. That's the aspect of having the love of a father, because he is secure and confident in himself and who he is and what his mission is, that he doesn't have to do that. I know who I am. I know why I'm here. I know what I'm supposed to do. I don't have to prove anything to any of you. For what? That's what our men know. That's what our men lack. That's why the father is important. That's why, if you, as a man, if your confidence ain't where it need to be, you need to figure out why it's not and get back together so your son can be on point. But come back over here to Samuel, man. You look at that Sine, right? You know, you grab and hold. The son has grabbed hold of life. He had to grab hold of life because of the thorns or the afflictions that he suffered. So when you look at you grabbing hold of life, you got the thorn, and then you got the glistening. In order to shine, you got to have the thorn. So you see the contrast. In order to get life, you got to suffer. And that's why your brother is born for adversity, and a friend loves at all times, because he's going to love you enough to be able to be there for you in your adversity so that you can shine. It's like when we were talking about being ready to perish from your youth up in Job 29 the other night, and how you put on righteousness as a robe. Jeremiah 31, before I forget. 31:1. I just want you to look at what it said that Yahuwah says in regards to Yasharal. I just want you to look at what he has to say in regards to Yasharal. Jeremiah 31:1, if you would. But again, our lack of love is don't have a teaching priest. Priest lips ain't keeping knowledge, so you're not learning. All you learning is you an Israelite and all these other nice other doctrines that go along with it, and whatever stuff that people come about. Niggas sitting around here arguing about who Esau is and whatever the case may be that niggas like to talk about. But what did he tell you were the weightier matters of the law? Judgment, mercy, and faith. And Lucas said the love of Elohim. And we don't care about that. You know what I'm saying? You got dudes who got questionable characters that like to question other men. You got men who want you to judge them based on the material that they possess, that they godly. When the book says if a man think gain his godliness, he's got a perverse and a corrupt mind, you ought to withdraw yourself from it. You know what I'm saying? Like, nigga, I don't care how much land you got. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care how many people come to your congregation. That is not the litmus test for righteousness. That is not the litmus test of if Elohim is with you. All I'm gonna look at it is if he will be with you, let him continually increase you, brother. But I'm not gonna go, oh, he gotta be righteous. See how many acres they got? Oh, they gotta be righteous, bro. They got 1,000 members. That don't mean nothing to me, bro. If you were Elohim, he gave you more. Hey, that's what he gave you. He might have somebody over here and he got 5. That doesn't make the person with 5 and the person with 1,000 any different. That's what he said. That remember that man said he that's faithful with least is faithful with much. So he already know if you can be faithful and watch over that 5, I know you'll watch over 500,000. But see, we don't even think about it in that aspect of how you will look at it. It's not about how many you got; it's how faithful to what it is that you have. And that's why people don't increase a lot, because you're not faithful over what you have. That's why I say if you're not faithful with another man's riches, who's going to give you into your trust the true riches? If you can't even be faithful in worldly mammon, this man ain't going to give you nothing from heaven. Because you ain't going to do nothing but mess that up. But nevertheless, Jeremiah 31:1. At the same time, saith Yahuwah, will I be Elohim of all the families of Yasharal, and they shall be my people. But saith Yahuwah, the people which were left of the sword found grace in the wilderness, even Yasharal, when I caused him to rest, who have appeared of old unto me, saying, yea, I have loved you with an everlasting love. Therefore, with loving kindness have I drawn you. Now, y'all know that's Chesed, right? The love and kindness, faithfulness, and goodness. That's what he said he gonna draw you with. He said it's an everlasting love, and he seeks to bring you in with goodness, kindness, and faithfulness. See, this is one of the aspects why I say a man who teach the word can't be no striker and no brawler. He got to be skilled to teach and to be kind. Because you look, see, some people look at, oh, when you preach too aggressive, this, that, and the third. See, you just weak and soft in the mind. Because you would have to look at, is that individual kind to you when you deal with them? See, a lot of us don't look at stuff because we get upset because people push you to think about things that you don't want to think about. See, I was talking to the little homie about that the other day. That's what a lot of people's problem is. You don't like to be questioned about things that you don't want to think about. You don't like to look in the mirror and have to see parts of yourself that you don't like or that you don't understand or that you can't properly convey. It makes you uncomfortable. And therefore, that uncomfort turns to resentment, and resentment turns to hate. And then that's where the slander and the killing come in at. That's why they hated the Lord, because the Lord would ask them certain questions and they couldn't answer those questions. Those questions made them uncomfortable. Therefore, they began to resent him for it and wanted to kill him. But also, they envied him because they wanted to be him. And that's a weird place for somebody to be, because you're mad at somebody for being who they are, yet you want to be them at the same time. You know what I'm saying? That's weird. That's the world that we live in when you're dealing with people. But the main number one thing is, regardless of what people do, you ought to love one another. That's why he told you to love your enemies, man. I don't even see why people understand that that's a difficult concept. It's not a difficult concept because you're thinking about somebody crying and hugging and this, that, and the third. Absolutely not. That man say, if your enemy be hungry, give him something to eat. If he be thirsty, give him milk to drink. He pours a coals of fire on his head. You ain't got no skill. You ain't got no tact because you feel like you have to explode and show this type of rage out of your insecurity to show how strong you is. To say, ain't nobody gonna mess with me when you really weak. You're posturing. You know what I'm saying? That's not who you are. But you feel you need to do this. See, that street stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got dudes in the street that done got violent because they had no other choice, because the streets only respect violence. So if somebody does something, you have to in turn become violent. Because if not, then other people will prey on you. See, Paul, Isaiah 59, since I said it. Isaiah 59, where is that, man? There it is. Let me make sure that's what I want. Let me make sure that I want. I feel like I'm looking right at the verse in my head. There it is. I know I was looking right at it. You could pick it up at verse 11, Isaiah 59 and 11. Eventually, we'll just get out of 1 Samuel 14, because we need to get to a little bit of Songs of Solomon this evening. Because what I wanted to go over was when the people ate them animals raw. I don't know if we might just have to get straight to the point on that regard. Isaiah 59 and 11. We roar all like bears and mourn sore like doves. We look for judgment, but there's none. For salvation, but it is far from us. For our transgressions are multiplied before you, and our sins testify against us. For our transgressions are with us, and as for our iniquities, we know them. And transgressing the line against Yahuwah, and departing away from our Elohim, speaking oppression and revolt, conceiving and uttering from the heart words of falsehood. Judgment is turned away backwards, justice stand far off, for truth is fallen in the street, and equity cannot enter. Now, of course, this is referring to the sufferings of the Lord. A truth fail, and he that depart from evil make himself a prey. And Yahuwah saw it, and it displeased him that there was no judgment. See, that's the part that we don't want to look at. When you depart from evil, it gives people the inclination that they can come and do something to you. And based off the culture and society that we live in, and of course, that is seen as a sign of weakness. That's why dudes feel like that they have to react and come with violence. You know what I'm saying? Come with some manner of aggression to assert that they're a man, to prove to this person, I ain't nobody to be messed with. And that's because of a lack of love. Most of the majority of things that we have going on as a people can be remedied simply with just the love of Elohim. Simply that. Once you know what the love of Elohim is, then you can love each other. But we're devoid of that. So the things that you see, that's why you see them. That's why he told you the love of many shall wax cold. Not the love of many towards each other, but he was talking about the love of Elohim. The same thing that you seen in Genesis. The love of Elohim waxed cold. So when the love of Elohim waxed cold, of course, the love to each other is going to disappear. That's the part that we don't understand. The love amongst people disappears because there's no love for Elohim. Elohim taught you to love each other. That's the whole framework of his whole law. The whole law is built on love. Love one towards another. And I don't see why Brews have a hard time understanding that and why it bothers them so much. Because you so worried about Christians and this. Man, sit your power behind down somewhere, man. That's insecurity. You got to show that you feel like you need to prove to these people you tough and you ain't no Christian. Man, check yourself, son. Son, you need counseling. There's something wrong with you. And a lot of y'all need to start telling them dudes that. Boy, there's something wrong with you, boy. Well, you need a psychiatrist. You need a therapist. You need a counselor. You need somebody to talk to. Something wrong with you. Where was your daddy at? That's when you need to start asking them, where was your daddy at? What type of man was your daddy? Was he a coward? Was he overly aggressive? Did he beat your mama? What's wrong with you, son? Did somebody touch you when you was in church? That why you mad about it? I can't speak to it. I wasn't ever there. But man, I just don't sit around thinking about no Christian like that. Them people don't bother me. I don't care nothing about them people. Not about what they got going on in this, that, and the third, and I feel like I have to shun anything associated to them. Why the fact that you consider love to be a Christian weak character trait is beyond me. That is the essence of who your Elohim is. The text literally says the man is love, and the only thing you want to say is he loves is keeping the commandment. Duh, and his commandments tells you to love each other. So what's wrong with you, boy? When he tell you don't slander your neighbor, don't suffer no sin on your neighbor. You know what I'm talking about? Don't steal your neighbor's stuff. If your brother did work for you, pay the man. All this stuff about loving another person. Like when you strip away, man, okay, man, you ain't supposed to eat no pork. Man, that's nothing. That's the love of Elohim. That's small things. But we don't look at, don't bear false witness on your brother. Because the same thing you seek to do to him gonna be done to you. Don't kill your brother. Pay attention to the law and look at the stuff that's in it. It's telling you to love each other. That's why I say from the beginning, you already know what it is. To love each other. Why are you offended by that? Why do you equate love with being effeminate? Is you gay? Do you think about men in your spare time? What's wrong with you? It makes no sense. Makes absolutely no sense. First Samuel chapter 14, man. And verse 6. Because we're in verse 5, actually. The forefront of the one was the situate northward over against Michmash, the other southward over against Gibeah. Jonathan said to the young man that bare his armor, come, let us go over unto the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that Yahuwah will work for us. But there's no restraint to Yahuwah to save by many or by few. Just let that be known. There is no restraint by Yahuwah to save anybody by many or by few. And y'all already know that he saved by few because he saved by one man. And his armor bearer said unto him, do all that is in your heart, turn you and behold, I'm with you according to your hearts. He paused, right? He said his armor bearer said that he is with him in the heart. Then we look at armor bearer, right? They lead off with Nasai Calais. When we look at Calais, of course, you got the hunting of war vessels, this, that, there, and the third. But of course, you should know that Nasai is to lift up. So it's to carry. Person who carries these weapons, right? Or lifts up the vessel. See, we have to look at ourselves, right? Remember, pause. Ephesians chapter 6. Give praise to the living Elohim. Understanding. Most importantly, for a heart of faith. Because without that, we would not even be here. Some people are here and they ain't got no heart of faith, and that's unfortunate for them. You know what I'm talking about? Because that's just the reality of life. We just can't sit back and be like everybody got a heart of faith. We would be lying. You know what I'm saying? I remember a long time ago, I had got a few people nervous because I told them right there, man, if it's 20 of us in this room, probably only 5 or 6 gonna be saved. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not gonna always, it's never gonna be a high number. It's very rarely. We can never say never. It's very rarely gonna be 20 for 20. Everybody don't have the same heart of faith. Remember what we read in Luke 17, the apostles asked the Lord to increase our faith. And I done told y'all that in the past. If you feel like your faith low, pray to Elohim that he increase it. He'll devise the means for your faith to be increased. But you would have to open your mouth and ask for that. See, like when the Lord told Peter, when you're converted, strengthen your brethren. You can only strengthen the brethren through trusting in Yahuwah. So the number one way that I can be able to strengthen somebody is with the word. Like I told you before, you can hit me up and be like, hey, give me some verses to read. I think so. I'm not versed enough in that regard, but I believe you're correct in that regard. I believe you're correct in that regard. We'd have to look into that because I'm not versed enough to say definitively that that's accurate. But I want to say that I've heard that before. But you could get Ephesians 6 and 11 if you would. We'll make it 6 and 10. But let's look at this here, right? Lifting up this vessel. Of course, you know, the vessel is Yahushua. Let's look and see why. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and the power of his might. So that's what I was saying. I have forgotten the train of thought. Like it's never as simple as give me some verses to read to get me through a day, through a week, through a situation and circumstance. I know that's the common course of action that a lot of people take. Sometimes that'd be difficult for me to be able to do because I just don't have random verses in my mind for life situations like you see people have drawn up. It would be more so that I would just have a conversation with you in regards to strengthening your faith. Of course, the word will be interspersed in the midst of the conversation. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not knocking nobody who give nobody no verses. Just for me, I think that's an ineffective uh, strategy for me to implement for someone else. That's just for me. I'm not speaking for anybody. I'm not knocking anybody who does that because some people may be more proficient in that area than I am. Because that's really what I'm trying to express. I'm not proficient enough in that area just to have verses shoot to you to read. Because the verses to shoot to you to read, unless Elohim would open your understanding for it, they may not benefit you when you read them. You know what I'm saying? Especially if it's just one verse. Now, if it's a complete and total story, that's maybe a tad bit different. You know what I'm saying? But I've had plenty of people over the years, man. Can you send me a verse for this, verses for this, and this? You know what I'm like? And I really be stuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, shoot, I'm not good at that. You know what I'm saying? Just come holler at me. It's about as simple as I can put it. You know what I'm saying? 6 and 11, no. Put on the whole armor of Elohim that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against the powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, and against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take you unto you the whole armor of Elohim, that you might be able to stand in the evil day, having done all to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girded about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness. Your feet shod with the preparation of the Sar of Shalom, and above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith you shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Ruach, which is the word of Elohim. So the armor bearer lifts up the vessels. You know what I'm saying? So you are lifting up the vessel, which is Yahushua, when you look at what he's taking you to take. Gird your loins with the Amun, or the Aman, or the Amunah, or the Amah. Take the breastplate of Zadok. So have the righteousness right over here covering your chest. That's what's protecting your heart. The righteousness of Elohim. Your loins are girded by, you done girded your inward parts with the firmness and reliability of Elohim. Your feet are set to be moved with the good news of peace. Then on top of that, you covered your, so that because you done did that, now you got the shield of your faith, because the faith protects from all things, things of that nature. And then of course, now you got the helmet of salvation, because the word is in your mind, and you got that sword of the spirit on your side. You got your fire. That's the word of Elohim, chop down any body at time. He said, I hew them with the words of my mouth. So when you look at it, this armor bearer, look what this armor bearer said. Just look at what he said, right? Do all that is in your heart and turn you. Behold, I'm with you according to your heart. See, when you sit back and look at it, right? Jonathan is over the armor bearer. The armor bearer say, whatever in your mind, I'm with it. Not, I'm on. You ain't over me. I'm a man. Nobody tell me what to do. Sit back. That's love that you see right there. This man love this man and say, whatever in your mind, boy, that's what's, I'm with you according to what you want. That's an aspect of how, brother. See, Paul, 1 Corinthians chapter 1. First Corinthians 1 and 4. I gotta tighten up, get it on solid before we run out of time. I thank my Elohim always on your behalf for the grace of Elohim, which is given you by Yahushua HaMashiach, that in everything you are enriched by him in all utterance and all knowledge. Even the testimony of Mashiach was confirmed in you, so that you come behind in no gift, waiting for the coming of our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, who shall also confirm you unto the end, that you may be blameless in the day of our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach. Elohim is faithful, by whom you were called unto the fellowship of his Son, Yahushua HaMashiach our Lord. Now I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, that you speak the same thing, that there be no divisions among you, and that you be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. That's what you see here. See, this armor bearer was joined with Jonathan in the same mind and in the same judgment. The same way that that's supposed to be, that like you see a woman be like, I don't want to submit, we partners. I ain't a partner with no woman. Because if you're a partner, that means you're an equal. I can't be the leader and be an equal. I done told you this before, a lot of women in this generation want to be independently dependent. You want the man to take care of you, but you want to be independent of him at the same time, or in competition with him, or him putting you on a pedestal and exalting you at a place above, which is meet for your station. You know what I'm saying? That's just not how that goes. Because you're supposed to be one body. So the same way that this armor bearer is sitting back looking at mentioning the Jonathan, do what's in your heart, I'm with you according to your heart. That woman's supposed to look at her husband and feel the same way. But we're supposed to look at Yahushua and look at him in the same fashion. Oh man, shoot, I'm gonna do it. I'm with you according to your heart. But say in your mind, that's what I'm with you in that regard. That's why women don't find men attractive who are indecisive. You know what I'm saying? They can't find, because they can't trust it. They can't follow it. He can't make up his mind. He don't know what to do. So how's my mind going to be like his mind when he ain't got no mind? He don't know what he want to do. They can't respect that at all. A lot of young men don't know that, so they get frustrated. A lot of young men don't know why a lot of times women ain't studying what you're talking about, because you're not conducting. One thing for certain, man, these women can tell you whatever they want to tell you. But one thing that they love and desire is masculinity. You know what I'm saying? Not trying to be stupidly tough and all this old extra stuff, but just being a man. It's not too many women on this earth who's not going to follow a masculine man and seek to have their desire be his desire. That's why I say your desire be to your husband, he rule over you, because he be your Lord. Lords rule, and those who know how to rule know where they're going and why they're going there and how they're going to get there. And it's very easy for that woman's desire to be to him. If you're indecisive, if you're wishy-washy, if you're emotional, it's going to be hard for her to follow you. Her desire can't be according to that, because your desire is her desire. Because you're thinking like according to her. She can't trust that. That's why dude tell you, man, if your mind ain't right and your paper ain't tight, you might not need fool with no women. Because you're going to get upset. Because you're going to feel like she need to do ABC, and she ain't really studying what you're talking about. See, one of the biggest mistakes that young men feel is that that woman should do whatever just because you're a man. It's not reality. You want to see, and this is also accurate. Brother said this other day, which is true. I told you this before. If you want a quality woman, you have to be a quality man. If you're not a quality man, you cannot expect a quality woman. How do we know this? Because the text say that a prudent wife comes from Yahuwah. So if you get a prudent wife, a wise, circumspect woman, that would mean that you would have to be the same, because Yahuwah would not deliver that type of woman to a fool. That is not something that he would do. We've discussed this before. That is not something that he is going to do. Rebecca was a wise and circumspect woman. You see, he delivered her right to Isaac. You know what I'm saying? That's not, Elohim don't roll that way. See, a lot of us feel like that you want something that you're not. You have to be quality in order to do that. Then also in regards to extracting something from your woman, that goes back to drawing with love and kindness, what we read. That's contingent on you. Amen, Kara. Amen. Because that's exactly what happened. He extracted Abigail, who was a woman of understanding, and gave her to David. Gave a prudent woman straight to him. And she showed that to David in regards to the counsel that she gave so he wouldn't kill Nabal. That's not how that works. If you want quality, you have to be quality. If you feel like your woman ain't doing certain things that you want her to do, you need to look at yourself first and look at your conduct and what you're doing. Because she very well may be reflecting to you how you're behaving. And if your game is on point, then you can say, okay, this is a wow. But if your game is not on point, well, you can't do that. The problem would be you. See, that's a hard pill to swallow. See, your mama's not going to tell you that. That's something your dad will tell you. But because most of us don't want to deal with other men, that's why a lot of young men, shoot, even older men, that's why they don't seek to be around other men and get counsel from other men, because they know a man 99.9% of the time is not going to tell you what you want to hear. It's going to tell you the truth. And then when you don't want to hear the truth, you're going to stray away from people who are going to tell you the truth, because you're going to have to look at your actions, assess them, and if there's a problem, or as they like to say in the engineering world, it's a pressure test. And if that don't stand up to that pressure test, you're going to have to go back to the drawing board and redo it. And we'd rather not do that. We'd rather live in folly, deal with the fallout from the folly, and then complain about the folly instead of never letting the folly grow in the first place. That's why we're in America right now. But we love folly, unfortunately. What we have right, man? Verse 8, 1 Samuel 14. Then said Jonathan, behold, we will pass over these men, and we will discover ourselves unto them. They say thus unto us, tarry until we come to you, then we shall stand still in our place and will not go up unto them. But if they say thus, come upon us, then we will go up, you who have delivered them into our hand, and this shall be a sign unto us. We drop down on it. Verse 23. So Yahuwah saved Yasharal that day. The battle passed over to Beth Haven. The men of Yasharal were distressed that day. Saul had adjured the people, saying, cursed be the man that eat any food until evening, that I may be avenged on my enemies. So none of the people tasted any food. They of the land came to the wood, and there was honey upon the ground. When the people were coming to the wood, behold, the honey dropped, but no man put his hand to his mouth, for the people feared the oath. Jonathan had not heard when his father charged the people with the oath. Therefore, he put the end of the rod that was in his hand and dipped it into the honeycomb and put his hand to his mouth, and his eyes were enlightened. So, of course, that's or, and that's to be light or to be shine. Takes us right back to the Bosez. Takes us in the aspect of the word being compared to honey. That when you taste that honey, especially as he say he took the rod, and that would be Yahusha, and you dip that in the honey, and of course you take that to the manna because it said it was like honey wafers, and you take that, and your eyes are open. Now your eyes are able to shine. You're able to see the light. You know what I'm saying? You have U and Rosh in that regard. You're able to see the light. You're secure to Elohim. See, a lot of us don't want to sit back and look at that and the securing, well, Olive and Rosh, excuse me. So you're secure to the strength of Elohim. And a lot of us don't really sit back and see that the strength of Elohim is love. And that love is based off in trusting Yahuwah forever. For trusting Yahuwah is everlasting strength. See, strength is not from physical might, because Goliath was stronger than David. Goliath was taken down because David had a strength that Goliath could not match. And that was his love for Yahuwah, aka his trust in Yahuwah. Again, we can sit back and look at all the aspects of how David conducted himself. And all you see is the love of Elohim, because that's all he showed to people. The only instance where you have him not showing the love of Elohim is with Uriah the Hittite, because he let his desires get the best of him. Verse 28. Then answered one of the people, your father straightly charged the people with an oath, saying, cursed be the people, the man that eat any food this day. And the people were faint. Then said Jonathan, my father have troubled the land. See, I pray you, how my eyes have been enlightened, because I tasted little of this honey. How much more if happily the people had eaten freely today of the spoil of their enemies which they found. For there had not been now much a great slaughter among the Philistines. Sit back and look at it, right? So Paul, see, that takes us to the aspect of the scribes and the Pharisees. He says that my fathers have troubled the land. This is what he sit back and said of his father. My father has troubled the land. Akar, and that is Ayin, Kaf, and Raj. So he's stirred up. He's made something taboo. He's troubled. He's disturbed. He has caused a manner of calamity. When we look at what Yahushua said about the scribes, he said they shut the kingdom of heaven from men, and they're not entering into themselves. They are causing people to not eat freely so that their eyes can be open. It's something that you have, because that's a lack of love. Because let's put it to you this way. That's what Jonathan was really trying to engage. That we had to go through all this slaughter because my father does not love you. He doesn't love these people. He loves his own selfish machinations, his own pride and his delusion of having to make himself seem great. So therefore, he is vexed. All of these people are faint. They're ready to fall out. That's why you see the aspect when Yahushua said, I can't send these people, and they faint in the way, because he loved them. He had a care and concern. That's why he said, I'm going to draw you with loving kindness, goodness, and faithfulness. You know what I'm saying? Then you sit back and look at, that's one of the reasons why the text tell a woman, if you want to win your husband, win him without the word, by living the word, because you should be able to draw him with the loving kindness, the goodness and kindness and faithfulness of the word. But unfortunately, many women of this time are not kind. They're combative. It was a young man, somebody posted to say, describe black women in one word, and the brother said argumentative, and they came for him. How could you say that? Your mama black, all this old stupid stuff, man, they were saying to the man. So where was the lie? Where was the lie? Because most black women are argumentative. Most black women are combative. And the issue is not that they're argumentative or combative. The issue is why. See, we'll look at all this stuff and nobody wants to know why. Because if you know the why, then you can figure out how to fix it. See, nobody wants to fix it. They just want to argue about it. Instead of belittling the man because he said argumentative, no one asked him, why did you say that, brother? What's your perspective? What would make you say that? Because if a woman was to say, or describe black men in one word, lazy, why would you say that? What you basing that off of? And a lot of times, a lot of people base stuff off of the poor quality people that they have chosen. And then that's natural to the human existence. A lot of white people, if they've never had an interaction with black people, and the one interaction they have is negative, they're going to paint every black person with that stroke based off the personal interaction that they had. If a man has a bad interaction with a woman because he chooses to fool with a slur, He might view every woman he come across in the fashion that he viewed that one woman who did him wrong. So, well, especially if you take people who have a pattern of picking low quality, low value, trash individuals, they will paint everybody with that brush, even though that's not the reality. Is the reality that every black woman is argumentative and combative? No, that is not the reality. That is the perception because many people carry themselves that way. Is every black man lazy and don't want to work? Because I had a sister say that a lot of black men don't even have the bare essentials, don't have a car in the house. That's not true. It's the niggas you choosing that don't have a car in the house. Because majority of dudes out here, they may not be rich, but they can take care of themselves. But that's their perception. Are there broke niggas with no houses and no cars? Yes, there are. Are they the overwhelming majority? No, they're not. But when your perception is going to be based off of who you dealt with, you will paint everyone with that brush. If you have a painting, if you've been in an assembly, congregation, camp, whatever you want to call it, and then people behave themselves in a certain fashion, you're going to view everybody in the word like that. That's how you're going to view everybody. It's just human nature. It's how people mind work. So the key thing that we have to keep the aspect of is the not fake love. He say not unfeigned love. You know what I'm saying? It's saying showing unfeigned love to the brethren. Not fake, genuine. See, we had an issue some years back about that people feel to jump up and say hello to people, all being all in people's face, and this, that, and the third. But that don't mean that that's genuine. You know what I'm saying? See, some people feel like, oh, that'll make me feel well. I don't need nobody coming in my face, shaking my hand, asking me a million and one question, this, that, and the third. That don't make me feel nothing because I don't know you. I would rather you be genuine. If you're not the type of person who walk up to people and say stuff to people you don't know, then do that. If you're the type of person that say, hey man, how you doing? My name is such and such, and this, that, and the third, then do that. But just be who you are and let your love be genuine according to who you are. That is more respectable and acceptable. And that's what we don't have. We got people playing roles, trying to be who they think people think that they should be or what people want to accept. This nigga's dropping 1,000,001 videos about this nigga Chadwick. Well, we were watching that film with that nigga Chadwick Boseman in it. Boy, I don't know how whatever the circumstances that nigga died is one thing. But all that blasphemy he was doing in that movie, he ought to die. Because, boy, it's just some stuff, boy, nigga put in the script, boy. Well, I'm not saying that. But here's the reason why I mention that, because his character's of that viewpoint. His mother was raped in this film. He blamed Yahuwah for it. Because that's how people feel. Why didn't you save my mama? Why didn't you stop this? Now you mad with him. Now your perception of Elohim is framed based off of this one situation and circumstance. This is how you view him after that. That's how the stuff works. It's just how the human mind works. Let's continue. And they smote the Philistines that day from Michmash to Ajon, and the people were very faint. And the people flew upon the spoil, took the sheep, oxen, and calves, slew them on the ground, and the people did eat them with the blood. Then they told Saul, saying, behold, the people sin against Yahuwah, and that they eat with the blood. And he said, you have transgressed. Roll a great stone unto me this day. Saul said, disperse yourselves among the people, and say unto them, bring every man his ox, every man his sheep, slay here and eat, and sin not against Yahuwah by and eating with the blood. And all the people brought every man his ox with him that night, and they slew them there. See, Saul had got these people in trouble because of his lack of love. And these people were so hungry that they sinned against Yahuwah because of his lack of concern and care, because he was not thinking about them. He was not being faithful to them. He wasn't being kind to them. And that's what Jonathan was trying to manifest to them in that regard, that a brother loves at all times. In times of war, in times of distress. Let's just come over here to Songs of Solomon, chapter 3. I want y'all to come over here to Songs of Solomon, chapter 3. Shoot, you can pick it up at verse 3. Again, the Ahav is the most precious gift that you can give to anyone. The love of Elohim, the Yahweh Elohim gave you the gift of life through the Ruach HaKodesh. Love is a very precious gift that you can give. It's nothing like it. It's a gift that is not given often enough. Truth be told, it's a gift that don't even cost you anything to give. That's the saddest part about the whole play, is that love is a gift that it doesn't even cost you to give. It doesn't cost you anything to give love. It doesn't cost you nothing. Love is free. You know what I'm saying? To give the gift of love, you only need one thing, and that's a desire to give it. That's it. Just a desire to give it. It's really just that simple. Just a desire to give it. Where there's no desire, there is no love. See, remember what the text say. Yahushua say, and it behooved Mashiach to suffer. He said, and it behooved him to be like unto his brethren. Say he made himself a little lower than the Malachim, because it behooved him to be like unto his brethren, that he might be a faithful and merciful high priest as pertaining to the reconciliation of the people to Elohim. There was a desire. He desired to die. He desired to show that love. See, most of us don't have a desire to show it. Let me see him tell you something, man. At least on the natural side, it's a risk. If you're going to be with somebody, it is a risk. Most of us are scared of taking risks. So therefore, you feel like you have to be like this here before you start manifesting love to somebody, which probably means that the love is not in you to begin with. Because you're going to show love regardless. I told you that before. If that's who you are, that's what you're going to do. See, most people are like that because you gave your love to people who didn't deserve it. Now, a lot of women feel like men are like that when really they're just being men, because a lot of women want men to be like women. And we're not women, we're men. I'm telling you, sisters, that stop wanting your man to behave like your girlfriends, like your homegirls, like your sisters. He's not. He is a man. Stop asking for that, because you don't even want it. You want him to be a man. And if you're a man, you shouldn't entertain it. You shouldn't entertain it. If we too late in the game, man, now it's allegedly 2021. Let me stop saying that too. Let me say that here for y'all people, man. Because a lot of brews get on my nerves with this here. New Year's don't start in the winter. Started it. You niggas dumb. And this is why I say niggas dumb. Exodus, he tell you that this is the beginning of years for you. All these niggas say they scholars and historians and this, that, there, and the third. Every culture has their own calendar and new year. Now, of course, in regards to because of business, most people follow the quote unquote Gregorian calendar. But every culture has their own new year. And it's always been like that. That's not new. And all you harping on is them saying New Year's January 1st. Where you niggas at when the Chinese New Year come? Why you don't do that then? You niggas will sit there and watch the NBA with the Chinese New Year jerseys, and you won't see nan nigga make nan posts about it. Won't say nothing about it. Where you at when the Arabs come with their New Year? Nigga, the Hindus got their own New Year. The Indians got their own New Year. Most African tribes got their own New Year. But you don't say nothing about any of those. All you're worrying about is the celebration of Janus. I don't care. It's not worth talking about. That's their New Year. Let them have. Ask yourself this question. Do you really think your ancestors in the land, they go, them niggas keeping their New Year? Let's tell them about how this ain't when the New Year is. If you believe that, you're a jackass. You are the epitome of an ignorant and foolish individual if you think your forefathers were sitting in the land worrying about what another group of people was keeping New Year's. They did not care. And to take it a step further, when you were in Babylon, under the rule of King Xerxes, Haman literally said out of his mouth, there is a people whose laws are not like ours. They're diverse from, matter of fact, let's sit back and look at it, man. You think them people care about when the Babylonians kept their New Year? You don't think the people knew the Babylonians had their own New Year? You think they cared? That's their stuff. I'm using that as an example because they were in a strange land, living amongst the strange people, the same as we are. They didn't care. You don't do that stuff because you care about people's soul. You niggas is information whores. And you think that if you keep telling people this stuff, it means something. Man, let them people celebrate their New Year's and be drunk and revel. Let them worship Bacchus if that's what they want to do. That ain't got nothing to do with you. Give praise to Elohim that he delivered you from worshiping Bacchus. How about you do that? As if you really drawing somebody in like that means something like, oh, I want to serve God now. This ain't the new year. The new year in the spring. Sit your stupid behind down somewhere. Well, you's a fool. That's a lack of skill and decorum. Care nothing about them people. I ain't think about them people in their time last night when they were doing what they were doing. I don't care nothing about what them people doing. That's their business. It got nothing to do with me. I ain't think about them people on Christmas. I don't care what them people doing. That's their business. I get mad when people say Happy New Year, Merry Christmas to me. For what? For what? Why are you mad? That's their business. You think the people know, oh, that's a servant of God. I better not tell him Merry Christmas. They just assume everybody do it. Have you lost that much touch with the human experience that you done forgot about that? That's their custom. That's how they live. And that's the chapter. That's how they live. Leave them people alone. That junk don't bother me. That junk ain't bother me ever. I don't care. Who cares? And take your time. Go look it up for yourself. Every culture has their own new year. Everyone. Everyone. See, that's how hypocritical dudes is, because if you don't talk about one culture, you need to talk about them all when their New Year's roll around. Let's see what verse. There we go. 3 and 8, if you would, man. Book of Esther, man. Haman said unto King Xerxes, there's a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your kingdom, and the laws are diverse from all people. Neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore, it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. You know, a lot of Bruce, how you know, show me they kept the Sabbath and the feast days in captivity. But they don't want to accept that verse. When it just said they don't keep the king's laws, their laws different from everybody else's. And that's the hypocritical nature of a lot of these Hebrews. They say they don't keep the king's law, their law different. It's not the feast days and the Sabbath and the law. That's what you tell all these people out here when you're out here in the street acting like a fool. But that's not acceptable for you because you want a verse that say they kept the Sabbath in Babylon. Just go kill yourself. Just kill you. Get it over with. Just cut your throat. Jump off a bridge. There's something wrong because ain't no life in you because you're devoid of any reasonable intelligence. Like I say, man, when the Chinese New Year roll around in February, I want to make sure if you made a post about the New Year ain't in the wintertime, I need you to make sure you make another one when the Chinese New Year roll around. I need you to make one. When the people come and start keeping their New Year when Ramadan roll around in March, I need to make sure March or April, make sure you get your post ready. I think Ramadan might be in June sometime. Might be in September, whatever they do. Make sure you have your post ready, man. Be consistent. Be consistent. If you're gonna be against something, be against all of it from every culture, not just the Gregorian calendar. Be against every calendar. If not, you're hypocritical. If not, you selective. You're really just fixated and infatuated with Caucasians. That's really what you're doing. Is sick. It ain't right. It ain't normal either. Songs of Solomon, chapter 3, man. Pick it up at verse 3. I know some people might see this later, don't like it. So what? Who cares? Like he probably was screaming Happy New Year last night. Sure was. With your mama, nigga. That's who I was singing Happy New Year with. With your mama. So was. We were sipping on some champagne with a diaper on. Dressed like the New Year's baby. Man, we know all these people worship pagan gods, man. I'm not spending my time worrying about somebody who don't serve Yahuwah. Why would I spend all my time fixated on those who hate Yahuwah versus those who love him? That makes no sense. It makes no sense. Absolutely none. My mind is not fixated on people who hate Yahuwah. Your mind got to be fixated on those who love Yahuwah. You can't do nothing for the people who hate Yahuwah, but put Yahuwah's gospel out there. In whatever fashion or way that he deemed fit for you to put that out there. Whether that's through your life, whether that's through a quick witness, a testimony, whether if he done sanctified you and sent you to preach it. However the case may be, that he send you out to manifest the love of Elohim, that's how you're going to win them people over. You're not going to win them people over by telling them January 1st. It's like, take a while. It's about Janice, the two-faced God, the God of endings and beginnings. Really just another version of Osiris, Isis, whoever, Horus, whatever you want to call it. Same story. You know what I'm saying? Same story. I seen Hebrews saying Happy New Year's. What's going on? Niggas, what? So what? You know what I'm saying? So what? Niggas want to check somebody about saying Happy New Year's, but they got all manner of hate in their heart. Don't even have faith for Elohim. Thinking you manifesting labor to his name because you telling people the New Year's is not is at a certain particular time. When again, it's not that New Year's is in spring. That's the New Year's for the Abarim, stupid. It's not New Year's for the whole world. That was New Year's for the Yahudim, for the Jews, for the Hebrews, for the house of Yasharal. That's who that New Year is for. You can't turn around and say he gave his laws and testimony to Jacob. He didn't deal with no other people in that fashion. And then turn around and picking the people because they keep New Year's in January. Which one is it? Come on, man. Just hear what it is, man. Which one is going to be? It can't be both. You can read it for yourself. I'll read it to you real quick, just so you can see what it say. Real quick, like, look what this man said. He was pretty clear. They was living in the midst of Egyptians. So, of course, we know the Egyptians had their own New Year, their own calendar. He said, Yahuwah spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. That's what he said. Let's go ahead and read it in Hebrew so we can see what it say. So we don't have no problem. Kadash, Rosh, Kadash, Rishon, Kadash, Shanae. Simple as that. Month, or first day of the month. Rosh, you know, is for head, the beginning. This month is the beginning of months. Rishon, which is first. This shall be the first Kadash, or month of Shanae, or year, or division of time. Just that simple. Just that simple. That's the new year for you. That don't pertain to them. So why am I going to ridicule somebody for something that doesn't pertain to them? That's not my business. They want to worship Janus? That's not my business. They want to worship the god Chronos? Not my business. They ain't got nothing to do with me. Your forefathers did not sit around. See, your forefathers, this is how Jews end up worshiping idols. Because you so worried about the idols that the nations worship that you get intrigued and you end up worshiping. I don't care what they do. I worship Yahuwah. I reverence Yahuwah. I don't care about them reverencing Janus. That's they. They want to party for Bacchus? Let them party. Let them party. What that got to do with me? See, we spend so much time focusing on what other people are doing that we don't focus on what we're supposed to be doing. Nevertheless, Songs of Solomon 3:3, man. We'll work some of this here. Yahuwah. See, I got something else too, man. Like I said, sprung from David. We probably started tomorrow. On tomorrow. My apologies, if Yahuwah permit. That's what we're probably gonna do. And it's still double back because by the grace of Elohim, you know, we are able to take a little bit of here and there, everything be full circle. And working like that. Say the watchmen that go about the city found me, to whom I said, saw you him who my soul loves? Have you seen the man who my Nephash loves? Now remember, right, for Ahab, right? Because I'll be skipping over it. Aleph, Hey, and Bat. You can behold the strength of the sun. You can see the faith of the sun, which is there's no love without trust. You cannot love someone you do not trust. Love and trust go hand in hand. The The weaker the trust, the weaker the love. The stronger the trust, the stronger the love. Because remember, the trust is going to be into what? Hope or expectation, but most importantly, the firmness and reliability of the individual when we're dealing with faith. The more that you know that you can depend and rely on this person, that they're firm, the more that you can love them. That's why the text say, with a virtuous woman, the man's heart can safely rest in her, knowing that she will never do him any spoil. The better the woman, the better the trust has for the man has for that woman. The lesser the woman, the lesser the trust. And that's all contingent on the conduct of the woman, not the conduct of the man, but the conduct of the woman. When I was listening to the brother talk about this here, man, he was talking to this lady, and he asked the lady, he was like, who do you feel more sorry for out here? And she said, women. He said, for what? You should feel sorry for men, because men have to pick these low-level women out here to say, I want her to have my kids, and I'm going to provide and protect, lead, teach, and guide people who don't want it. People who don't want it. I was thinking about this here when I was rolling, man. You see chicks be like, because I actually heard a comedian say this. The second part, what I'm going to say, I actually heard a comedian. How women be like, you know, we the mothers of creation and this, that, there, and the third, and this, that, and, you know, kind of trying to spit out the man. But I heard a comedian say that God thought so lowly of a woman that your orgasm does not even have anything to do with producing life. That a woman can have an orgasm and no child can be born. But if a man has an orgasm, this is when life can actually be produced. That if a man doesn't have an orgasm, they know, like a woman having an orgasm has absolutely nothing to do with making a child. You could have sex with a woman, she could have 6 orgasms back to back. No baby can be produced. All a man has to do is do it one time. His orgasm is that critical in the continuing of mankind. Because I always hear women talking about, you know, we the creators of life, but baby, you can't, no excretion that you, there's nothing that you do that can create the life. Why is that important? Because of course it's not ejaculate, but of course it's in regards to what the text says, for spilling your seed. That Yahusha did that when he was pierced in the side with the blood and the water, in that regard of spilling the seed, therefore making him unclean because he was dead. Therefore he had to be washed with the ruach to be clean unto the next day, as the law requires in Leviticus 15. That his blood being shed was more important than your blood being shed. Your blood being shed could not produce offspring. But his blood being shed produced offspring because his seed was more important. See, again, every aspect that I look at stuff, it might seem like this, that, and the third, but my mind goes back to the word and how it relates. So we're supposed to be sitting back looking at for the man whom your soul loves. See, a lot of brothers have probably never experienced, unfortunately. That is an accurate statement, Kira. As another brother put it, they're an incubator, but they're the carrier of life. And the very precious carrier at that, because we've already talked about that. That if a woman carrying your child, you ought to give her the utmost respect. That's if it's done in love, which is something that rarely happens in our current society. A lot of these children are not made out of love; they're made out of desire, physical lust. Children that are made out of love are loved because 99.9% of the time, the parents are married. You know what I'm saying? If a child is made out of love, it's because the parents are married. Unfortunately, you do have parents who are married that make children out of lust as well, because you just have sexual urges. So you told us before, if you deal it in the purest form, sex is supposed to be, because sex, period, was created for the purpose of preserving the species. It's for reproduction. But the child is supposed to be an expression of the purest love between the people. Because Yahusha merging with the Adamah, or the ground, with his seed, which is his body, produce offspring, which is the sons and daughters of Elohim, which is the purest expression of love, by birthing offspring because of his sufferings and his death. But we don't really look at it. Your offspring is supposed to be evidence that these two people loved each other. They loved each other enough to replicate a son in his image. Because we know every time a woman carries a baby, she could die. You know what I'm saying? So that's your wife. You ought to give her respect. She put her life on the line to replicate you. You know what I'm saying? She do respect for that. See, a lot of times we look at all this stuff that dudes be talking about in the men, like, man, you ain't got no business walking around here hating women, disrespecting women, all that extra stuff. Nigga, that junk is gay. Do you know what I'm talking about? You understand how women think and you conduct yourself accordingly. If you're around here hating women, you need counseling. You know what I'm saying? You need to talk to somebody. You got a problem. You know what I'm saying? You need to get that fixed. You need to get that worked on. You know what I'm saying? It's not right. It's just not right. You ain't got no business hating no woman. A woman's nature is a woman's nature, just like a man's nature is a man's nature. A woman ain't got no business hating a man's nature. If she hates a man's nature, she needs counseling. There's something wrong with her. She needs help. It's not right. This is why there's no love. This is why children grow up in households with no love. And we cool with it. And we cool with it. Man, that's not right. These children don't have to be created in a house that's devoid of love. Because that's all they seeking when they come out the womb. We only want to love them when they babies. You don't want to love them as they get older. You got to show them the same manner of love that you gave them when they was a baby, when they're 10 years old. The love should never stop. It should increase. Not just because, oh, they little and they cute and all that stuff. But they still need them same hugs, kisses, and attention, and instruction, and all that, even more as they get older. It's imperative. Love builds confidence. You know what I'm saying? Which, of course, you should know. Because of the love of Elohim, you would have confidence in Elohim. Would you not? Love builds confidence. But that's something that our people are devoid of. I'm telling you, man, I go all night by this stuff, man, and linking with the word, man. But let me keep on rolling, man. So just know that you behold the strength of the Son, which is his faith. Never forget that. You beholding Yahushua offering his life is how you build confidence in Elohim because of the love. Love simply builds confidence, not emotional love. The love of Elohim builds confidence. The more you love your wife, the more confidence she has in you. The more you love your sons and your daughters, the more confidence they have in you. The more a woman loves her husband, the more confidence he has in you for whatever he has set for you to do. But nevertheless, let's continue. Verse 4, it was but a little that I passed from them, but I found him who my soul loved. Look what he said. I held him. I would not let him go until I brought him into my mother's house, into the chamber of her that conceived me. Now let's sit back and look at conceived. I think we dealt with that before. We don't need that. That's her rock. So no need for that. But look at it, say, right? Brought her to my mother's house that conceived me. Come over here to Galatians chapter. Because we know where you were conceived at. Your mother's house is Jerusalem. That's where you were conceived at. But notice the key thing. I held him. I wouldn't let him go. That's what a lot of us need to sit back and look at. If Yahushua is the one you love, then you need to grab him and not let him go. But see, we be letting him go. We be withdrawing and abandoning because that's the word there. Rafa, you're disheartened. You let it drop. You sink. You abandon. You forsake. She said, I ain't gonna forsake it. We just read that in 2 Chronicles 15. He said, if you don't forsake him, he ain't gonna forsake you. He gonna be right there. He ain't going nowhere. One thing for certain and two things for sure. If you hold on to the man who loves you, that man ain't going nowhere. And you can see that. I done told you this before. As far as the society that we live in. Galatians chapter 4, probably about verse you can pick it up at 21. That most relationships in this current society are ended by women. Overwhelming majority. Men don't go anywhere for the most part. They're not going to go anywhere. Not if they done made a conscious decision to love somebody. They're not going anywhere. They're going to stay right there. When a woman don't have what she wants, she is out. She is out, and she could care less. And she could care less. She is out. And that's what Yashara always been doing. Soon as something don't serve your desire, you out. But you got to go. You can't forsake that man. You got to hold it. Galatians 4:21. Tell me, you that desire to be under the law, do you not hear the law? For it is written that Abraham had two sons, the one by bondmaid, the other by free woman. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh, but he of the free woman was by promise, which things are an allegory, for these are the two covenants, the one from Mount Sinai, which entered the bondage, which is Hagar. For this Hagar is Mount Sinai and Arabia, in answer to Jerusalem, which now is and is in bondage with her sons. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. The place that we were birthed at, you were birthed in Jerusalem when they put him in a sepulchre of which no man had ever been laid. Like the Songs of Solomon, chapter 3 and verse 5. He said, I charge you, O you daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes, by the hinds of the field, that you stir not up nor awake my love till he please. Now, of course, when you look at this woman, and with please, you have kafats, which is to delight and to take pleasure in. So the aspect what you see of this woman is she was more concerned with that man than she was concerned with herself. This is the aspect what the law teaches you in regards to take delight and the pleasure in the things that Elohim take delight and pleasure in. Because if a woman is taught love from a man, she would know that she should put her man before herself. What makes him happy? What does he like? What does he care for? Does she even care? Does she investigate? Does she study this man? Does she even care to pay attention to this man's likes or dislikes, delights, so that she can be able to feel them? See, this is what young men are told to do for women, but young women are not told to do this for men. You know what I'm saying? Because you're taught to put her on a pedestal versus individuals loving each other according to their role. That's why they sought to get rid of gender roles. They don't want you to love each other according to that role because it's detrimental to the children. Most of you have heard of Behold the Pale Horse and other books like it, and have seen many places where they detail where they sought to destroy the family structure. To destroy the family is to destroy a society. And people are too simple-minded to understand that. If you want to destroy and cripple and crumble a society, you have to destroy the family. The strength and bond of every culture and society is in the family, specifically the father, because it's a domino effect. Nevertheless, verse 6, who is he that come out of the wilderness like pillars of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense, with all the powders of the merchant? I want you to pause, right? Y'all should know what this is, but if you're not, we're going to read it. First off, we look at pillars, right? Pillar, column. Very simple, right? I.e. cloud, pillar. Tamara, tau, yod, beam, rosh, hay. So you're going to behold that the right hand of Elohim is going to begin to shed blood of those who have broken that covenant. But see, you know that from what? Isaiah chapter 4. They say he'd be a pillar of cloud by night. You know that, come over to Isaiah 63 on general principle. Y'all know from Zechariah 14 that he will stand on the Mount of Olives in that day. I think we touched Isaiah 63 because people forgot, but screw it, we'll read it again because he said, he that cometh out of the wilderness, like pillars of smoke, but he perfumed with myrrh and frankincense. So why is he perfumed with myrrh and frankincense? First and foremost, perfumed here is Qatar. You know, that's to cause incense to smoke after, the smoke upon, to be made smoke, to make sacrifices smoke, to burn incense, or to burn sacrifices. Kuf, Tet, and Rosh. So what do we want to use for Tet? Do we want to keep it, I don't want to keep it, boy, this nigga done dropped 1,000 videos in a short period of time. Let me see what I want for Tet. I want to say snake or contain. I'm not sure, so I need to look at all my options. Yeah, yep, we might have to go ahead and look That snake pause. So look at that in that regard. Take that kuf. We want to say the back of the head or the least. You know what? So the serpent is the least to Elohim. We know this here in this regard. Matthew chapter 5, in regard to the snake being the least, or the serpent being the least to Elohim. Matthew 5 and 17. Matthew 5 and 17. Think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I come not to destroy, but to fulfill. Truly I say unto you, till Shamahim and the rats pass, one jot or one tittle shall no wise pass from the Torah, till all be fulfilled. Whoso therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men, so he shall be called the least in the kingdom of Shamahim. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of Shamahim. Now, in regards to the serpent, we know that he is the least because he said, we know that the lust of your father ye will do, because he teaches people to not do what the man says to do. So that's why he's coming burning with sacrifices. Because how does it say that he's returning? He is returning with fire. That's why he's perfumed with myrrh and some good old frankincense, because he got to go ahead and what's the word I'm looking for? Sprinkle and freshen up those good old sacrifices, if you would. The other one here is a vodka for powder, and that's an aromatic powder. And again, I go back to what we were talking about with fragrances, that most of the fragrances that Yahuwah makes are woody aromatics. Let's continue to verse 7. Oh, I didn't read Isaiah 63. 63 and 1. So he said, who is this that come from Edom with dyed garments from Bozrah, that is esteemed in his apparel, taking us back to the shining garments of Bocheth. Bozez, I said that wrong, my apologies. Traveling in the greatness of his strength, I that speak righteousness mighty to save. Who are you? Wherefore are you red in your apparel, and your garments like him that tread in the wine fat? I have trodden the winepress alone, and the people there was none with me. I will tread them in my anger and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments. I will stain on my raiment. See, now this came to mind for me was Luke 18. Well, he told you that men are always to pray and not to faint. And I was talking about the woman would come to him continually. And he said, I will avenge you, and I will avenge you speedily. Nevertheless, will the Son of Man find faith upon the earth? Now, why did this come to my mind? Because it came to my mind in regards to Revelation 3 and 9. That he said that he would cause men to bow down, that you might know that he loved you. See, come to Revelation 3, man. We good in Isaiah 63. Because this is talking about him coming through out of that wilderness with that fire to sprinkle some good old incense on his sacrifices. Because he's coming to make war. Why is he coming to make war? Not only first and foremost for his mighty and Kadash name, let that be, but then also because he loves you. Because again, a friend loves at all times. Revelation 3 and 7, at all times. Even in his disdain for us, he still loved us. See, that's where the long suffering come in. The hallmark of an individual's character is, can you love someone when you don't like them, or when they don't like you, or when they do something that you don't like? And I ain't talking about little stuff like, oh, I don't like that. I'm talking about really offend. Really offend, and you can still have the ability to show the mercy and love of Elohim in the midst of the offense. Remember, I mentioned that earlier in Luke 17 and 1. Offenses must come. They say, woe to them who the offense come. He say, and if your brother offend you and he repents 7 times in a day, he say, forgive him every time. If he turn from, because again, this is not Elohim saying, oh, you say you repent, I forgive you. He's just showing you to be merciful. He'll deal with him in the time, because eventually you're going to reap what you sow. See, you can't continually sow selfishness and think you're going to reap people who are going to be selfless to you. That's not going to happen. You get back what you put in. So if you don't like what you're getting back out of your life, you have to look at what are you putting into it. Because what you're getting back is a direct reflection of what you are, the effort that you are giving. It's a direct reflection. And again, these are things that our Father's supposed to tell us that we're not being told. And when I say told, not just throw the cliche, but cause this child to understand. You can't do things and you can't get something for nothing. You just can't sit around and just wait for something. You have to do the things to prepare yourself for. We were talking about this the other day, right? You got all these Christian people out here, man, even bruised in the word, talking about they waiting on their Boaz and all this, that, and the third. Man, Boaz didn't go walk around. That man just didn't pop up out the sky. You know who prepared Ruth to get Boaz? Naomi, her mother-in-law. It was a woman who prepped and primed that woman to be prepared to be able to get that man when the opportunity presented itself. And that's what you don't have. You don't have an older woman preparing you to be able to be a man's wife. See, they always say that I'm waiting on my Boaz. Well, where's the older woman there to get you ready for him? He just didn't pop up and say, oh, there go Ruth, let me get her. Somebody prepared her for that. Somebody prepared her for that. And because she was prepared, he was able to take notice. And because she was prepared, he said, you know what? I'm going to have to grab little baby right there. Put her on the team. See, they don't want to tell the women that. So you waiting for a nigga who ain't never come because you ain't ready for him. So when he see you, he ain't going to see no Ruth. He going to say, shoot, I don't know who she is. She need to get out the way. See, they don't tell you that part about the story. Just sit there and think about it. Naomi did that. Naomi orchestrated all of that. Ruth just did what she was told. Naomi orchestrated all of that. And why is that the case? Because in the eyesight of Elohim, marriage is honorable. It is his desire that and also I would think about this here too. There's a reason why. Also, because they always talk about there's more women than men. I put it to you this way. Why do you brothers feel like, sisters as well, why do y'all feel like it's more women than men? Don't just come with I want you to sit back and think. Why do you believe that there are more women than men? Because there's always more women on earth than men. Why do y'all think it's more women than men? I didn't want to see your perspective. Because I know why it's more women in earth. More women on the earth than men. But I'd like to hear y'all thoughts. I know it can't be that hot in here. That dude keep coming on like that. Nobody got no thoughts. Nobody got nothing they want to add. Men would have more women to choose from. Men would be killing due to scarcity, more to procreate with. You never thought about it. I can see why all of y'all would make those statements, Dap, Johnny, and Kira. For men to have more options to choose from, I can see why you would say that as well. Anybody else? Anybody else? I know it's not something that you would randomly sit back and think about. They weren't discussing why. It's just when it was mentioned, it clicked in my brain. You never considered, man. I understand. But this is why there are more women than men on the earth. Number one, a man can have children until he's dead. A man can be 91 years old and place his semen inside a woman's womb, and she can have a child. But a woman only has a finite year of time to produce children. She probably at the most has 20 years of procreation. Therefore, it is very, very imperative Oh, no, not in that regard. That's why it is very, very imperative to have more women on the earth, because women do not have time on their side in regards to procreation. She only has a set amount of time that she can have kids. Only a set amount of time. And we sit back and look at it, because some dudes are scientifically so. A woman can have children from the time of her first menstrual cycle to maybe her late 40s to 50s. And it's over. You know what I'm saying? So she has maybe 20 to 25 years, 30 at the most, where she can have kids. A man can have kids until he's 100. A man can never stop having children. He can have children as long as he's alive. All he needs is a fertile womb to place his seed in. So it would be imperative that it would be more women than men, because so that the species can continue. If there was one man for if it was one woman for every man, species would not be able to continue, because every woman can't have kids for whatever reason. Of course, first and foremost, because Yahuwah shut up women's wombs, but you have more women than men, because they don't have a long period of time to have kids. Of course, the saying, her biological clock is ticking. You know what I'm saying? That woman hit menopause, it's over. Amen. As far as Abraham. And that is correct, Kira. That's why older men pick younger women for their youth and vitality. And the younger women pick older men for their leadership and not even their leadership, for their provision, to be taken care of. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with that. You shouldn't knock a woman for wanting to be taken care of. It's in her nature to want to be taken care of. Can't knock her for that. And she's going to want to be taken care of by the best available man that she can get. And as Deidre just put it, that was the case. Sarah was past her prime. Look how old Abraham was when Yahuwah opened up her womb, because it said she was past the time of giving birth. Abraham was almost 100 years old. Man, when Isaac impregnated Rebecca, he was like 60. Like, you have to think about that. That's the reason. It's really just that simple. You're going to need more women than men. Men don't go through menopause. And now your womb is dead. His penis is never dead. His testicles don't die. A woman's womb literally dies and becomes barren and is no longer fruitful. Amen. And he did do that, man. And then he remarried, married Keturah, had more kids. Had more kids. You know what I'm saying? See, we like to sometimes make stuff seem like it's so deep, but it's really just that simple. It's for the species to continue. Woman literally has, we'll just say from age 18 to 45. And of course, the older she is, by the grace of Yahuwah, Elohim forbid, the higher risk it is for her to have kids the older that she is. You know what I'm saying? Well, that pregnancy could be detrimental to her. You know what I'm saying? Because the time's running out. Like I told you before, you ain't never heard of men say, I got to hurry up getting married so I can have some kids. No, men don't have that problem. Time is on the side of men. Time is not on the side of a woman. It's not on her side. And that's something that a lot of people do not tell young women in this society. Time is not on your side. And that's why they're like, why do you want to why do you want younger women? Why would he want a 40-year-old woman to have kids with? He can't have but one. So yeah, he's going to get a 23-year-old woman to have kids with. She might give him 3-4. Because he spent the time to make himself better to be able to provide for a woman and 3-4 kids. Not to get with a lady who can't give no kids if he ain't got none. Why did he spend all that time improving himself and increasing his value and his worth financially to get with somebody who old who can't give no kids? Because kids are the hallmark of a man's legacy, which would show forth the value of who he was when he was here. By product of what he instructed them in and raising them and crafting him that they would be better versions of himself, which is part of the reason why Yahushua say, hey, greater works than these that you're going to do, because you'll be a better version of me, because that's what I'm raising you to be, because I love you enough to teach you to be better than me, because I loved you when I made you. That's what I made you for, to be a replica of me. That's why it's such a blessing to become a son or daughter of Elohim. You're a replica of your father who manifested the greatest love that could ever be spoken. That's why you can't get concerned with people who mock the text or mock the fact you believe in Yahuwah and wait on Yahuwah, because they don't understand the love. And you can't understand love when it ain't in you. You can't be concerned with that. You have to be thankful that he allowed you to understand what it is and allow you to actually be a partaker of it. And not only be a partaker of it directly from him, but be a partaker of someone who is of him, because they're going to give you the same type of love. Nevertheless, Revelation 3 and 7. And to the Malachim of the house in Philadelphia, write these things, saith he that is Kadash, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that opened and no man shut, and shut and no man opened. I know your works. Behold, I've set before you an open door, and no man can shut it. For you have a little strength, and have kept my word, and have not denied my name. And behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Hashatan, which say that they are Yahudim and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them come to worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you. This man say, when he come around here and bash these people upside their head who are the house of the adversary, that he will make these people bow down so that you can know that he loved you, which is what that Isaiah 63 is about, which is what that Songs of Solomon chapter 3 is about, that he coming to see these people so that they can know, that's my old lady, that's my kid, what you mean, what's wrong with you? A man who loves his wife is not going to let anyone do nothing to his wife and there not be consequences and repercussions. Definitely not to his offspring. But let's continue. Look at verse 7. The Songs of Solomon, chapter 3. Behold, his bed, which is Solomon's, 80 valiant men are about it, of the valiant of Yasharal. Let's just look at valiant real quick. Gabor, words you should be familiar with, strong, mighty. They all hold swords, being expert in war. Every man had a sword upon his thigh because of fear in the night. Fear is Picard, a little terror and a little dread. And you know that's when he coming. Those are the Malachim. You can check out the Epistle of Jude, coming with 10,000 thousands of his saints. If that's not sufficient for you, you can read Zechariah 14. They'll tell you about it. If that don't work for you, go check out Judges chapter 5. They all tell you about it. Listen what it said. King Solomon made himself a chariot of the wood of Lebanon. He made the pillars thereof of silver, the bottom thereof gold, the covering of it of purple, the midst thereof being paved with love for the daughters of Jerusalem. Look at what he said, right? Made himself a chariot. Made himself a chariot. Aperon, Aleph, Pei, Raj, Yod, U, and Nun. We might revisit that word on tomorrow. But he said that the pillars thereof were silver and the bottom of it was gold. It's covered in purple for royalty because he's a king, which by product, if you're married to a king, if you're married to a Malik, that would make you a Malkah. See, you can't be a Malkah without having a Malik. That's impossible. I told y'all that the other day. Stop calling them little girls princesses, and you ain't no king. Princesses are the daughters of the king. Don't call that young man a prince, and you ain't no king. Those are the sons of a king. And when I say that, I mean, if you're not going to conduct yourself in a regal fashion, in a divinely royal fashion, then don't call them children that. Because you're not manifesting that to them. Because he said he made you kings and priests through his blood. That means you would need to act like one in order to call your offspring that. Because that means you would be training your son to be a ruler. That means you would need to be conducting yourself like a ruler. Which means you would have rule over your thoughts, rule over your desires, rule over your mouth. You would have dominion over your flesh because the word would have dominion over it. Therefore, you could be justified in saying that you are a king. See, I'm going past the aspect of physical dominion. Let's move past that, toss that to the side, because we know we can't be no king in that regard till we get our inheritance. But you can be a king as far as your conduct and how a king conducts himself. If you desire to call yourself a king, you got to think like a king and you got to act like a king, which means you got to think and act like Yahushua, who is the king of kings. Without that, you can't call yourself one. Same way dudes be like, she called Abraham Lord. Well, go look at Abraham's conduct. He was qualified and justified for his wife to look at, because it doesn't say that he compelled her to do that. He very well may have. But one thing we could say, if from insinuation, that clearly his conduct was what allowed her to look at him and say, yes, master, this is my Lord, this is my ruler. He conducts himself like a ruler. So therefore, I don't have a problem with referring to him as such. See, one thing about a woman, some things with a woman, if you conduct yourself in a certain fashion, you ain't even ask her to do it. She'll do it on her own based on what you're doing. She'll do it on her own. You ain't got to tell no woman to call you Lord. If you conduct yourself like one, she wouldn't have no choice but to refer to you as that, because she would know that a king is in her presence. You know what I'm saying? It's simple as that. And if you're a king, you're going to be masculine, because you can't be no king and be feminine. At that point, you ain't a king, you a queen. Because queens don't have the concerns that kings have. She's there to sit next to the king and be nice looking. That's it. She's not there to rule. She ain't there to do none of that. That's his job. He make the decision. He call the shots. You just sit next to the king. As forth as Yasharal. Don't call no shots. Yahusha called them shots. But let's continue, right? He said it's paved with love. In the middle of that chariot. I want you to look at midst. Of course, that's in the middle. That's Tavak. Remember what the text tell you, just Yahuwah in the midst. He told you he come with chariots. He's in the midst of the chariot. You know what I'm talking about? And it's paved with love. Let's continue some more. I don't want you to think about that, man, because, we done did this before, man. Dudes be looking at Songs of Solomon thinking this stuff about sucking penis and eating coochie. Them weird people. When we look at paved, it's Ratsaf, excuse me. Rash, Sod, and Pay. So when you look at this here, right, we can see that the way, or that the word is the way to Elohim. Why do we say that? Because Ratsaf means to fit together, to be fitted out or designed. You're made in the pattern of Elohim. You fit together with Elohim. That's why it's paved with love. In the midst of this chariot, again, because right, he said that he would cause these people to bow down to you, that they may know that he has loved you. When he comes back in that chariot to slaughter these people, it's paved with love in the midst of it, so that they can know the pattern of the love that this man has. Because he say you're the apple of his eye, and that he will slaughter people for dare touching you and offending you. Nevertheless, and he said it's paved with love for the daughters of Jerusalem. That means he loved his woman. So that's also an aspect of the manifestation, because a friend love at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Because remember, when we are in the latter times specifically of the beast, of the son of perdition, of the man of sin, he will be slaying people. He will be persecuting the saints. He will be blaspheming the tabernacle of Elohim. And that if those days would not stop, no flesh would be saved. And he's coming in the midst, paved with love for the daughters of Jerusalem, to slay all those that have offended her. This is the last verse in this passage, and then we'll stop there. We'll delve into a little bit more of it, you who are willing, on the morrow. Go forth, O you daughters of Zion. Behold, King Solomon with the crown wherewith his mother crowned him, and the day of his espousals, and the day of the gladness of his heart. I want you to stop and look at espousals, which is, of course, is the wedding or the marriage. It is kathuna. Kat, tau, u, kat, tau, nun, and u. So the first thing that we sit back and look at is that Yahusha's covenant has separated us unto life. Remember, he said, you have been espoused as a chaste virgin to Mashiach. He said, behold, King Solomon with the crown that his mother crowned him in the day of his espousals. Come over here to Matthew 27. Now, the aspect, and I didn't read verse 1 and 2, but verse 1 of Songs of Solomon, by night on my bed, I sought him whom my soul loved. I sought him, but I found him not. I will rise now and go about in the city, in the streets, in the broad ways. I will seek him whom my soul loved. I sought him, but I found him not. That's why they say the watchmen that go about the city found me, to whom I said, have you seen him? Now, of course, y'all know in Ezekiel 33, it talk about the watchman. So he said, I've been looking for him, but I couldn't find him. That take you back to the parable, not the parable, excuse me, this story in Acts with the Ethiopian eunuch and Philip. He said, how can I know except some man guide me? Because I'm looking for him, but I can't find him. So I need a watchman. Then to ask the watchman, have you seen him? Have you seen him? Can you tell me, have you seen him whom a soul loves? Remember, you know what I'm saying? You say, I've been able to behold wondrous things out of your Torah. Your eyes is open, taking us back to what we were talking about with Jonathan when he dipped his rod into the honey, and when he did it, he was enlightened, his eyes open. I can tell you, yeah, I seen him who your soul loves. Yeah, I can tell you how to find him. That's the objective of somebody who preached the word, to tell you how to find the man who your soul loves, who you've been looking for. And of course, you find him. And then when you find him, he see that he coming back to make war. Now, if I don't know anybody who's used chapter 3 in a sexual fashion, but I don't know how they get no sex out of that. I don't see how you won't get nothing out of that other than the love that Yahuwah has for his people, that he will come back and slaughter all of those and get his woman. Now, the last part is dealing with Yahushua's resurrection, if you will. Because it say, go you forth, and behold, King Solomon with the crown that his mother crowned him with in the day of the wedding, in the day of the marriage. See, what a lot of us don't realize is that his crucifixion was the day of his marriage, if you will. And that's when he shed blood or to pay the dowry to get his wife, because he paid the dowry with his life. That's another conversation for another day. But Matthew chapter 27, verse 27. And then the soldiers of the governor took Yahushua into the common hall, gathered him unto him the whole band of soldiers. They stripped him and put on him a scarlet robe. And when they had platted a crown of thorns, they put it on his head and a reed in his right hand, and they bowed the knee before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, Malik of the Yahudim. Now notice, right? We look at his mother. You look at him, they put the crown on him in the day of his espousal. But also, from Luke chapter 1, I'm just reading that because it's paying forth is leading up to Sunday. In Luke chapter 1, it told you that he would sit upon the throne of his father David and rule over the whole house of Jacob. We already talked about his mother in regards to being Jerusalem. He was crowned by his mother in the day of the wedding, in the day of the gladness of his heart, the day that he went in the grave. So you don't realize it made him happy to die for you. See, a lot of us don't really sit back and look at that, of how happy that made. That was a glad day for him. It was a sad day for his flesh. It was a glad day for his heart. Because let me tell you something, man. And this is the way it should be if you're going to do it. The day you marry your woman should be the day that your heart be glad. Why would you marry someone and it doesn't make you happy to do it? Not to say happy, makes you glad to do it. Why does not bring joy to your heart? Because that's the word there, simcha, joy, gladness, pleasure, a happy issue. Why does that not bring pleasure to your heart that you married this? Because it brought pleasure to Elohim's heart to marry you. That brought pleasure to his heart to do that. Because of the love that he had for her. That it made it. And remember, his gladness of heart to be a spouse or to be married to this woman was for him to die. Because remember what Romans 7 tells us. So let's take a look at it. Verse 3, to be specific. It says, so then if while her husband lives, she be married to another man, she be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from the law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. Wherefore, my brethren, you also are become dead to the law by the body of Mashiach, that you should be married to another, even to him who is raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit under Elohim. Case in point, before Yahusha went to be killed, after he had went and prayed with his apostles, they went and sung hymns. They went to sing praise to Elohim. I mean, there was joy in his heart. It was gladness in his heart. I'm about to go get my woman. I'm about to partake in the action which will cause me to be married to my woman again. Remember, he devised his means to bring his banished back unto him. You have to sit back and look at that. Because now he's about to be crowned in the day of his espousals, in the day of the gladness of his heart. Because he told him, it behooves me to suffer. This was needed, and he was glad to do it. He said, Abba, I fulfilled the work that you've given me to do. Now esteem my name as it was in the foundation of the world. The aspect that we're supposed to sit back and marry again, why would you marry a woman who don't bring joy to your heart? Why would you marry a woman that you're not glad to do it? Why would we do that? But we live in a society of where that happens. We're talking about an aspect of Elohim, because if we serve Elohim, we should be glad to do anything that relates to him. If we're in Elohim and you say you marrying a woman who's supposed to be Elohim, that should be a joyous and glad time in your heart to do it. I say, man, it's a lot of content creators say a lot of things about getting married in this society. But it's a couple brothers I agree with wholeheartedly. The only reason why a lot of them tell men not to do it is because the women are woefully, what's the word I want to use? Unqualified, unskilled for the job. And it's detrimental to the men. Like, that's sad. Like, that's something that we're supposed to sit back and look at. That's sad because they have to tell men to not do the thing that they want to do. Because a lot of men want to do it. So then we look at our Elohim. He wanted to be married to us, and we were shunning him because we were woefully unprepared and not worthy to be married to him. But he said, you know what? Let me do this here. I love this woman so much that I am going to become a man and be disrespected by the very beings that I created and be hung from a tree and suffer excruciating pain in order to marry this woman again because it makes me glad in my heart to do it. This is how you can see that a friend loves at all times, that a brother is born for adversity. Faithful are the wounds of love, and there's a love that sticks closer than a brother. And that's why love is the strongest thing that an individual can do. You know what I'm saying? It's the easiest thing to do because all it takes is the desire to do it. And if you had a man who loved you enough and desired enough to die for you, it should be nothing for you to love your family and for us to love each other. So hallelujah for y'all who tried to work. We will stop right there for right now. We got some more stuff. I might continue with some more stuff out of Songs of Solomon in this regard and just save the other part. Other thing that came to my mind for next week, if you permits. I'm trying to think. I think we got to get ready for I think Pyramid March, if I'm not mistaken. We get this doggone 2021 feast day dates. But they usually gonna be around the same time. So that we can have that set locked in, ready to roll. You know, but just weigh and consider, man. You know, it's a beautiful thing. You know, our Elohim is the great Elohim, the only living Elohim, the only one worthy to be praised and honored, and whose name ought to be spoken or even considered throughout the whole earth. There is no God but the living Elohim of Yasharal. And you need to let that be known from time to time. You know what I'm saying? Let people know that. We worry about it. People like, you keep trying to push your religion. I ain't trying to push nothing on you. I'm just talking facts. Yahuwah is the only Elohim. And that's it. You know what I'm saying? Yahushua is the only Redeemer and Savior of man. And that's it. I don't care if you like it or not. You know what I'm saying? People like, you know, you can't offend people. Man, screw what you're talking about. See, you have to stop looking at it as an aspect of it's a belief or something. I just believe that to be true. You know it's true if you know who you're dealing with. Now, if you don't know who you're dealing with, then it's a belief. As forth as what English language defines belief as, which I don't even know off the top of my head what the English language defines belief as, because I just generally don't care. You know what I'm saying? As forth as in juxtaposition to what the text say belief or faith is, or that regard. But they say belief is the acceptance that a statement is true or that something exists. Well, it's the same thing. Trust, confidence, in someone or something. So we definitely have that. So that's the same thing for their definition of faith. Complete trust or confidence in someone or something. But this is where they get different with faith. Strong belief in God or the doctrines of a religion based on spiritual apprehension rather than proof. So they call faith as something that you believe based off of anxiousness or fear. Disrespectful. See, we don't have faith in Elohim because we have some spiritual anxiety. That's asinine. You know what I'm saying? We have faith in Elohim because we know that Yahuwah is the living Elohim and manifested himself in the flesh and offered himself as a sacrifice that his people might be redeemed unto him. See, we have faith in Yahuwah because we know that Elohim is love and that he manifested that love. That's why we have the faith and the confidence. Because again, love breeds confidence. Where there is love, there is confidence. Where there is no love, that's where the fear and apprehension come in at. People who are anxious and fearful are that way because they didn't grow up with any love. If you sit back and you look at just people, just thinking you know unscientifically in your brain, if you know some of the people who fit that framework, their upbringing, I guarantee you they didn't come up in a house full of love. People who are fearful and anxious grew up in houses where love was absent. You know what I'm saying? The most confident people you run across, they grew up in households where there was love. As simple as that. Love breeds confidence. You know what I'm saying? Simple as that. It breeds confidence. It's here. We probably talk about it a little bit on tomorrow, man. A lot of people who ain't got who fearful and anxious, man, they ain't have no love in their house. But you know, again, man, I bless y'all out the house of Elohim in the name of Yahushua, man. I appreciate y'all time, man. You know, you who are willing, man, we'll pick it up on tomorrow and do it again. You know, just remember this continue to stay and girded and fixed in the love of Elohim. Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. You can't go wrong, man. And just let your faith continue to be strengthened so that the love and your confidence in Elohim can grow more and more. And you who are willing, till tomorrow.